Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most unnerving FNAF fan games you can experience right now. From unsettling environments to games that constantly make you feel like something is wrong, these projects know exactly how to make players uncomfortable. Some of these will get under your skin without you even realizing it, so let's get into them.
What is your favorite Roblox game? Don't answer that. I don't want to see any comments saying Forsaken, that game is terrible. Let me be more specific. What is your favorite Roblox FNAF game? Maybe you say FNAF 2 Reimagined. Maybe you say dog watching. Well, I personally have found a new FNAF Roblox series that we could add to the conversation. Today, we'll be talking about Five Nights at Marcus, a series many of you may have never heard about. However, with 3 games being in the series, I'm willing to bet you've heard of the third. It's just a little game that goes by the name of Far From Land. Yeah. That's something even I didn't know about until starting to do work for this video. This series tries a lot of interesting things and succeeds and fails at a lot of them. Today, I'll be going over each of those things, so join me as we dive into the world of Five Nights at Marcus. And with Five Nights at Marcus, we obviously start with the first one, and night 1 of game 1. And with night 1 on the way, we bust a nut into our office and can start learning about everything important that we need to learn. To start, let's just talk about our office itself. Obviously, we have our monitors for our cameras in front of us, but we also have a picture of a cat named Oscar on our desk, and I think that's great. Also, if you open the drawer on your desk, you'll see another picture of Oscar. Just lovely. Looking up, we see a big vent, but we'll focus on that later. Turning around, we'll see the door to our office, which cannot be closed, which is a bit concerning just knowing the type of game we're playing right now. And behind us is also a maintenance panel, which we will be using to complete the night. How do we do that, you ask? Great question. On this maintenance panel, you will see several tasks we have to complete. That's right, Five Nights at Marcus uses a task-based completion system rather than a time-based one, which can be a blessing and a curse in some instances. The tasks are mind-numbing. Just press a button and wait for it to load 5 times and the night is over. But what about the threat this night introduces? That would seemingly be Marcus himself. You can find him on the cameras just laying on the fucking floor. He has no legs, so we can all laugh at him for being crippled. Where's your life alert, buddy, huh? Get up! Marcus will try to get to the door behind you. However, Marcus makes no sound cues, and because he has no legs, is not visible at the door or window either. So, how are you supposed to know when he's actually arrived? Another great question. Gosh, you guys are on a roll today. The answer is pretty simple. You really have to make sure you're watching him on the cameras, and once you see him leave camera 1, you'll know he's at your door. But Dexter, how are you supposed to keep him away? Oh my goodness, another amazing question. You're doing so well. Inside of your maintenance panel, along with your tasks menu, you also have a shock menu. Go to the shock menu and use the shock when Marcus is outside of your door, and he'll scream like a bitch and run away. And then his cycle will continue. Night 1 is piss easy since Marcus barely moves, but don't worry, this is going to get much more complicated as we go. So let's move on to night 2. Night 2 rolls around and we have one new threat to talk about. And for some reason, I'm not gonna lie to you, this night serves to show me how stressful this game is about to become. Let's talk about it. The new threat on this night, not gonna lie, I don't know the name of him, so I'm just gonna call him Green Man. Green Man attacks in the same way as Marcus, except noticing him is a lot easier. When he gets to your office, he has 2 phases. One outside of your window, and one where he's standing in the fucking doorway. Which I can't lie, scared the shit out of me the first time I saw it. Oh. What's that? I didn't like that. No, I fucking didn't. What the fuck was that about? Which you can see in my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Exact same thing as Marcus here. Whenever you see him in your hallway or at your door, shock his ass and he'll reset. Now, if you remember about 24 seconds ago, you'll notice I said that this night is stressful. You might be wondering how that's even possible considering there's only 2 threats and they both do the exact same thing. Well, my reasoning for this surrounds Marcus and the fact you have to watch him so closely on the cameras. Marcus moves incredibly quickly, it seems. Like, way faster than I would have ever expected for a Night 2 character to move. I was expecting to be able to do my tasks in bursts of 50% before checking on him, but that got me killed very quickly. We gotta get this thing to 100 before we go check on him, though. That's my goal. We gotta get you to 100, bro. Perfect. Fuck! fuck me in my ass. Okay, well, I didn't expect you to be that quick. He was a quick guy. Then I decided to do them in bursts of 25%, and that was working up until the point in the night where Green Man starts moving. Then I had to start doing my tasks in bursts of 10%, and even that felt like I was cutting it down to the wire with time management. And now, here's the really weird part. Throughout the first half of the night, Marcus was moving at the speed of sound. The moment Green Man activates, Marcus sits in his final camera for the rest of the night without moving. And this is so stressful for exactly the reason you think it is. With Marcus in his last camera, it only takes him one more movement opportunity to reach the office, which means I'm on edge the whole night, constantly checking to make sure he doesn't move. Because he's been stationary for so long, I'm thinking, there's no way he's not gonna move. He's going to anytime now, except nope. He never fucking moved. Just sitting there like a dick, scaring the shit out of me. Whatever. On to night 3. With night 3 coming along, so does another threat we get to talk about. And in all honesty, this threat doesn't make the game much harder, but Marcus 100% does. The threat introduced on this night is once again someone I don't know the name of, so I'm going to be calling him Vent Guy. And I'm guessing purely by saying his name, you can already guess what this guy is going to do. That's right, the exact same thing as Marcus. No, I'm not kidding. Vent Guy will attack your vents, and he actually has 2 different means of attacking you. The first will have him do exactly what Green Man does. He'll go through vent 1 and show up outside of your office. When he does, all you have to do is go to the shock menu on your maintenance panel and shock the vent. His second form of attack will have him attack the vent directly above your head, or vent 2. When you see him in this vent, for some reason, you don't shock the vent. This time around, you have to give him the Withered Foxy treatment and flash your light at him several times to make him go away. Turns out he's epileptic, and there's nothing I enjoy more than giving epileptic people seizures. Also, quick side tangent, I feel like it'd be hard to drive with epilepsy. And who knows, maybe you can't. There have been times where I'm driving on the highway, and on the sides of the road they have the little bumper things to prevent people from flying off the road, but these little bumper things have several support beams holding them in the ground, so when you're driving during the sunset, oftentimes the sun will line up with those fucking support beams and proceed to strobe me for the next 6 miles on the fucking road. Anyways, let's keep talking about the Five Nights at Freddy's game, shall we? Again, Vent Guy isn't really that big of an issue. Who is a fucking issue, however, is Marcus. At first, I thought Marcus was moving at the speed of fucking sound because there would be several, and I do mean several instances where I noticed Marcus leaves camera 1, so I shocked the hallway. Then moments later, I get killed by Marcus. At first, I thought this meant Marcus turned into a fucking bullet train, but no. I think I understand what's happening here. I'm pretty sure there's a window of time between Marcus leaving camera 1 and actually showing up outside of your office. And I think I was shocking the hallway during that window of time, which meant when Marcus actually did get to my hallway, I was never actually able to shock him, and I obviously couldn't see him on the cameras. I think this is a very, very bad mechanic. If this is truly how Marcus works, if Marcus can't be seen when he's in the hallway, and he makes no sound cues to indicate he's entered the hallway, and you have a window of time between him disappearing off of all of the cameras and reaching the hallway, and your shock cooldown is very long, this brings up a very obvious problem of literally never being able to time Marcus properly and consistently. What needs to happen is when Marcus leaves camera 1, that means he is instantly in your hallway. What ended up happening constantly during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, is I would see Marcus leave camera 1, so I'd shock the hallway. Then I'd check camera 4 to see if he'd been reset. When I saw he hadn't, I'd rush back to the maintenance panel and spam the shock button, which was always still charging at this point. Shock the hallway a second time, and only then would I see that Marcus would reset. This is very bad. One of the only flaws I've noticed with this game so far. This is not fun. This is not challenging. This is not innovative. This is just bad game design. And if the devs are looking for anything to change about this game, this is 100% the thing to change. But with that, we can move on to night 4. All right, recording Dxtr here. Giving a little note as I'm reading this script and remembering that I wrote this. Marcus, I was told that Marcus, after he is in camera 1 and he disappears, he doesn't go to the hallway. He actually goes to camera 3 after camera 1. However, thinking about that doesn't make sense because quite literally, every time I shocked the hallway and then shocked it a second time, Marcus was reset. So you're telling me that if that's true, what I just said right now, that he goes to camera 3 after camera 1, camera 3 is his final camera, you're telling me that every single feasible time Marcus left camera 1 and I shocked twice, he made a movement opportunity to camera 3 and then my hallway. He made that every time in that window of time without fail. I don't believe that. I have trouble believing that. I think what I wrote originally is correct, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Guys, I've got some great news for you. After a long time of waiting, the Skags plushie is finally live. I've been working with Makeshift to make the perfect Skags plushie possible, and I think he's turned out perfect. We obviously talk a lot about Five Nights at Freddy's on this channel, so I figured it'd be great to make him in the exact style as the FNAF plushies, which means he'll easily be able to sit on your desk or shelf without falling over. You guys made this possible. I could have never done this without you. To everyone who supported the petition a few months back, thank you guys so much. But you guys have to be fast, as Skags is only around for a limited time. Once this campaign is over, he'll be gone forever, so you really don't want to miss out. This is hands down the coolest thing that has ever happened to me as a YouTuber, and I never thought 2 years ago when I started this channel that it would get me this far in life. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate every single one of you. You guys have made my dreams come true, and this is one small way I can celebrate that. So go get yourself a Skags plushie before time runs out. He's the perfect gift for anyone who likes stuffed animals, and I guarantee if you put this guy in your bed, the Huzz are gonna flock to you like birds. So that's always a plus too. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and thank you to Makeshift for making this plushie with me and putting up with my constant tweaks to make sure that Skags is as perfect as he is. Sorry for interrupting. Let's get back to the video. Night 4 rolls around, and with it, another threat is introduced. Once again, the name of this character is currently unknown to me, so I'm going to be calling him Screen Guy. Obviously, as I'm sure you could have already seen, there are 6 screens on our desk, and so far we've only ever used one of them. Well, Screen Guy is here to change that. Throughout the night, at random, he has a chance to appear on any of the non-camera screens. He'll make a subtle sound cue when he appears, and all you have to do is click the monitor he occupies, and he'll go away. Incredibly basic character, not really much to worry about. Something about this night I want to mention is 2 things that I learned. The first being that Green Man's name is Shut. I personally prefer Green Man, if I'm being honest. The second thing I learned while playing Night 4 is that as long as your maintenance panel is down, no matter which of the 2 screens you have selected, you will still do your task. Okay, let's just pump this up to 40. And now we'll shock. Oh, wait, it's still going. Well, isn't that just the best thing you've ever seen in your life? I didn't know it was gonna do all that now. Which means if I notice Marcus has left, now that I know I basically have to shock him twice to properly time it, I can start on my task, flip to the shock panel, and while I take a billion years shocking him twice, the task I selected will still be performed the entire time. I'm sure this was probably obvious to most people, but shut up, I just figured it out now. Anyways, on to Night 5, since there wasn't a whole lot to go over this time. Once again, Night 5 introduces nothing new and just goes about being a harder version of Night 4. While a little boring, there's nothing wrong with that. It is the first game in the series after all. However, there is something interesting to talk about. But before I talk about it, I want to mention the names of the characters I've failed to mention so far. Vent Guy's name is officially Dahomey. Yes, I'm serious. What a silly name. I personally prefer Vent Guy, I'm not gonna lie. And then the weird monitor guy's name is officially Shadow Marcus, which, by the way, I didn't mention this. If you ever don't click his monitor in time, he'll just appear behind you and disable your maintenance panel, ensuring that you will die. Anyways, on to that interesting thing I mentioned about 20 seconds ago. After completing Night 5, the game doesn't just end like I expected it to. Instead, we get this cutscene. But there we go. After completing night 5, we get a sneak peek at possibly our antagonist, and Five Nights at Marcus comes to a close. But that's not before we're able to go into the extras menu and read a little bit about the characters. We see that Marcus was never finished being built, which is obviously why he has no legs. Shut was originally designed to be so tall for intimidation, as he was going to be a security robot, but he soon turned hostile. Dahomey goes into your vents because he's so small, and he was the last robot made before the company had to hand over all of their robots for investigation, which I find interesting because they're not being investigated in this game. They're just sitting in a building. And finally, the company has given no word as to what Shadow Marcus even is, so yeah, that doesn't sound weird and suspicious at all. So yeah, that's all Five Nights at Marcus has to offer. But of course, judging by the length of this video, you guys know we've got a lot more to talk about. And that's because this series actually has 2 additional games packed full of content. So let's move on to Five Nights at Marcus 2. Five Nights at Marcus 2, while not a remaster, don't let that fool you, as while graphically it may not look as good as the first game, mechanic-wise, I think it is pretty solid. And this game is much more stressful than the first. So let's get right into Night 1, because just like in the first game, there's no weird minigames. Night 1 drops us right into the office and really shows us how much more challenging this game is going to be. To start, let's talk about the tools at our disposal. Of course, we have our camera system, nothing special, and just like the last game, we're able to turn around to do our tasks. But we'll talk about what those tasks are in a bit because they are much more interesting than the first. Sticking to the front of our office, we have a flashlight that we can use to flash the large window in front of us. You'll notice there's 3 separate areas of this window you can flash. You'll also notice that this flashlight drains incredibly quickly, like really fast. So what do we do about that? While looking at the front of the office, you can flip down your maintenance panel in order to repair things or shock things. If your flashlight goes dead, simply repair it and it'll fill right back up. Nothing crazy. Now, let's move on to talking about the task-based system this game has, and why it's much more stressful than the first. To start, this time around, we're not just pressing a button and playing the waiting game. This time, it's actually something we have to pay attention to. We will receive several shipping containers throughout the night. When they arrive, we must scan them, which takes a while, and when they're scanned, we'll get some information about them on the left side of the screen. The information predetermined on the right side of the screen is what should be inside of the shipping container. If both sides match, we accept it. If they don't, we deny it. Every time we do this successfully, we gain a point, and if we fuck up 5 times, we lose. Fucking up is pretty hard, but once these nights start to get more and more stressful, it will become apparent how messing this up could be easy. Do this 12 times and the night is complete. But of course, we all know it's not just that simple, as of course we do have other threats to deal with at the same time. Just like in the first game, Marcus himself is the only character introduced on night 1, and he is very simple. Even more simple than in the first game. However, he does drain a precious resource far more than any other character does. Marcus will move through the cameras to get to your window. Luckily, this time you'll actually be able to see him when he's at it. And when he is, all you have to do is spam your flashlight at him and he'll reset. But of course, with the flashlight draining so quickly, dealing with Marcus is not something you're going to want to be doing very often, as repairing the flashlight can take a hefty amount of time when you really don't have it. Plus, we'll need to use that flashlight to deal with the other threats that get introduced later, but for now, Marcus is all we have, so beating this night should be easy and we can move on to night 2. Night 2 honestly does way more than I expected it to, and is where I learned that this game has quite a few more characters than the first. So let's not waste any time and talk about the first threat this night introduces, Shut. Returning from the first game like Marcus, Shut plays a role in introducing a very important mechanic into the game, that being your shock system. Inside of your maintenance panel where you repair your flashlight, you'll notice a shock button at the bottom. Switching to the shock screen, you'll see you can shock either the vent or the office. Shut will slowly make his way to your office, and fun fact, whenever a character reaches camera 5, which is the camera right before they show up in your window, they will actually make a sound cue as you'll be able to hear them walking, which is very nice. When Shut shows up at your window, shock your office and he'll go away, wherein you'll then have to wait for the office shock to recharge. Not so bad. Hopefully we just don't get a fuck ton more characters that also require us to shock the office. The next threat introduced on this night goes by the name of Him. Stupid name, I know, but let's just roll with it, alright? Him will make his way to your office and show up at your window. When he does, all you have to do is shock the office and he'll leave. Uh-oh. Something tells me this game is about to get super repetitive and mind-numbing and luck-based. But those are the only new threats this night introduces. But before we move on to night 3, there's one more mechanic I need to mention now that we've brought up shocking. You only have 5 shocks. When you run out, you'll need to repair your shock to refill it. You usually have plenty of time to do this at this point of the game, but I get the funny feeling it's going to get a lot more difficult as we progress. But with that out of the way, we can move on to night 3. Night 3 only adds one new threat, and the way the game made him sound made me think he was going to be interesting.
What are the animatronics? Take a shortcut through the vents to your office. Make sure you flash.
What? 17! But I was sorely mistaken. This night introduces Vent Boy again. I already forgot his name, and I don't feel like checking again because I remember that it was something really stupid. Vent Boy does pretty much the exact same thing that he does in the first game, yet they somehow managed to make him more boring. Vent Boy obviously travels through your vents. When he makes it to your window, you'll see him directly in front of you. Unlike the original, where you have to shock the vent, this time around, you just treat him like Marcus and flash him a bunch of times until he leaves. Very boring. I don't know why they didn't make him a vent shot character. That just makes sense. It's also at this point of the video where I want to mention a pretty glaring flaw that this game has, and I'm sure you might have already caught on. There is so far no reason to ever check your cameras throughout this game, and in fact, even the sound cues aren't necessary, as you could pretty easily beat what we've talked about so far with the game muted. Here's what the strategy boils down to right now. Start the night and immediately start working on tasks. Every time you send a container, turn around and very quickly flash the 3 sections of the window to waste as little flashlight power as possible. If you don't see anyone, do your next task. If you do see someone, deal with them. If it's a shock character, shock them and then repair your flashlight before turning around and working on the next container. The only time you won't repair your light here is if you need to repair your shock instead. Repeat this 17 times for night 3 and you have it completed. Is this night hard? No. Do all of the characters make you feel intimidated? No. Why? Because even though we have 4 characters active at this point, there are still only 2 mechanics to deal with all of them, as this game continues to dive into the FNAF 2 repetition problem. But let's hold out some hope and move on to night 4. Night 4 is nothing special. No, literally, quite literally nothing new is added on this night at all. And for some reason, during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually got attacked far less times than I did on night 3, which I thought was really weird. The only thing that actually changes on this night is how many cargo containers you have, which on this night was 18. Boring stuff. Let's move on to night 5 where something interesting actually does happen. Night 5 does something different, thankfully, that being introducing one new threat that actually really changes something about the gameplay loop, which this game 100% needed. This new character is Vent Boy 2.0, and I'm calling him that because, once again, I forgot his fucking name. Vent Boy 2.0 adds something from the first game that I wasn't a super huge fan of. As I'm sure you could have guessed by his name, he travels through the vents, except unlike Dahomey, he doesn't drop down in front of you for you to flash. He works exactly how Marcus does from the first game. He'll travel through your vent cameras. Once you see him disappear from them, you know he's about to attack. During this time, all you have to do is shock the vent and he'll reset. While not a hard mechanic by itself, it does hurt my dick that I actually have to try to beat this game now. Although it is good that at least now finally on night 5, we have a reason to use the camera. Too bad we only get one night with him, as night 5 is the final night 5 Nights at Marcus 2 has to offer. However, we still have one last game to talk about, and it's not called 5 Nights at Marcus 3. I actually didn't even know that the next game we'll be talking about was even a part of this series, that game in question being Far From Land. So let's jump right into that. Far From Land starts in a very interesting way. Unlike both of the 5 Nights at Marcus games, Far From Land actually has something other than just night sections, as this game opens to a cutscene about cargo ships that work for Celadon, and go figure, we play as the person driving this cargo ship. And oddly enough, we're referred to as Marcus by the phone guy. Hey, recording Dxtr once again. No, we fucking aren't. We're not called Marcus. I don't know why I fucking wrote that. We're called Malcolm. Guess I'm retarded. Anyways, let's continue. Speaking of the phone guy, he's nothing special on our first voyage in the game. He tells us how to deal with problems, blah, blah, blah. Let me do that for you guys. To start, once again, like the other games, Far From Land is a task-based completion system, which I really like. And this game's task is by far the most interesting and engaging so far. We have to literally just drive the fucking ship. That's the task. While we're piloting the ship, we will be able to see several icebergs in front of us. We will have to steer the ship away from these to avoid crashes. And once we reach a certain point, which is marked on a monitor in front of us, the voyage will be complete. Of course, it's not just as easy as that. We also have a maintenance room to keep track of. The ship we're on is very old and is prone to breaking down. We can check the ship's integrity with one of our monitors, and once it gets too low, the ship will stop moving and sirens will start to blare. At this time, we must go back to the maintenance room and fix one of a few busted pipes at random. Don't worry about the massive scary vent in front of us. We'll talk about that later. The only other thing for us to talk about on this night is the one threat this game introduces. I'm assuming this character is Shut, just given the fact how large this character really is. On one of our monitors in front of us, we can see a layout of the ship. Unlike every other game so far, we can't actually check the cameras, which is really a good thing since the last two games really didn't have any reason to. Every time a character moves, we will get a signal on this monitor to show us exactly where they are. Obviously, Shut is the only character active on this night, so he's all we have to talk about. Shut, being the most basic of the characters, does the most basic thing. He will wander around the ship until he reaches the hallway directly behind you. You'll be able to hear him when he arrives. Turning around will show him inside of the hallway, but you don't have to do anything at this point. The next time Shut moves, he will be right up next to you, so you need to make sure you're facing the hallway when this happens. As he walks up to you, you'll need to hold your breath so he thinks you're not alive or something. He'll check you out, make sure you're a robot or something, and then he'll turn around and leave, and you can go back to driving the ship. Very simple character, but I do think him getting so close to you is super cool. But that's all the first voyage has to offer. But good news for us, in this game, there's actually something to do after each night instead of just moving on to the next. We have the first post-voyage section where we need to fix up our old bum-ass ship. During this section, we're in an area that's dark as fuck. We're equipped with a flashlight and a checklist. We'll have to find several jerry cans around the map, fix several pipes, shut off the power, and find and replace the fuse of the ship's generator. Then this night will truly be over. Of course, it's not just as simple as that, as there is a threat lurking around. Do I know the name of this character? Just like most other characters introduced in this series, no. But I'm sure I'll find out the more that I play. For now, I'm going to call this character the Puppet because its drawing kinda looks like a discount marionette. The puppet will randomly wander around the ship as we're doing our tasks. This place is dark as fuck, and using our flashlight is essential. Every time we move to a new location, we'll have to pause and listen for the puppet's breathing. Even though it's a fucking robot, it still is loud. When we hear it, we must hold our breath until it leaves, wherein we can then continue our tasks. Very simple overall, but I do think it's really cool they're adding something to do after the main night sections. With that, we can move on to Voyage 2. Voyage 2 is much the same as the first. We've got a slightly longer distance to go and a new threat to talk about. This one being a lot scarier than the last. I want you to take a solid guess whether or not I know the name of this character. Do you think I do? What's that? You think I know the name of this character? Well, you haven't been watching this video then because I have no fucking idea what this thing is called, so I'm gonna be calling him Water Guy. Hey, recording Dxtr here, once again, I'm back. Apparently this is fucking Marcus. Does it look like Marcus? No, but it's Marcus. Water Guy uses a mechanic that has to do with water, if you couldn't have guessed based on how I named him. One of the monitors on the panel in front of us shows off our water integrity. This is basically just explaining how much water the ship is currently storing. Pulling the lever next to it will increase how much water is stored if it ever decreases. But that brings up the question of how it decreases. Well, that's where Water Guy comes into play. Just like Shut, he will make his way to where we are. However, he uses a different entrance. If you turn to where Shut attacks and then turn left, you'll see a new door. This door has no light and there's no way to see into the doorway. I'm sure you can see where this might be going. And you'd be right. You will not be able to see Water Guy when he's in the door. And with no cameras, how are you supposed to track him? Well, that's where that trusty motion detector comes into play. When you see that he's near the entrance, quickly whip around to that doorway and pull a yellow lever that releases a sprinkler system into the doorway for some reason. Not really sure why this is here, but it is. When you do, you'll see Water Guy Spark, since, you know, he's a robot and they don't really fuck with water and such, and then he'll reset. Nothing crazy, but he is for sure going to be one of the more annoying threats throughout this playthrough. So now, let's move on to the post-Voyage 2 section. Not even really sure why I'm talking about this section. It's the exact same as the last one, except the objects are placed randomly somewhere else, and it seems that whatever monster's down here is more aggressive. Overall, super simple. It's time to move on to Voyage 3. Voyage 3 is longer than Voyage 2. This is going to be a pattern that repeats itself. Also offered on this voyage is yet another threat for us to worry about, that being Dahomey. A character I surprisingly remembered the name of, but that's only because it's so fucking stupid. Dahomey, like he is in the other games, is a vent character. And where is the only vent on the ship we can access? That's right, the maintenance room. Luckily, we can track him on the motion detector like the other characters, and when we see him in the vent, all we have to do is whip over to it and hold our flashlight on him until he goes away. Very easy, but it is another character to drag us away from the task that continues to get longer and longer each night, but that's all this voyage adds. Moving on to the post-voyage section, which is actually something different this time. Instead of inspecting the top deck, this time we're inspecting the bottom deck. In it, we have another plethora of tasks, such as fixing leaky pipes, replacing fire extinguishers, rearranging pipes, and finally refueling the ship. All of these tasks are pretty simple. However, there is one threat looming over our heads, quite literally the entire time. That being the puppet-looking thing again. Hey, recording Dxtr again. This is a different fucking puppet. I don't know its name, but it's a different one. Occasionally, while we're walking around the lower deck, he'll drop down from a vent in the ceiling. Using a wrench we acquire on this night to complete our tasks, we have to whack the shit out of him to make him jump back into the vents. We only have a certain amount of stamina, and since we need to swing the wrench to fix leaky pipes, we have to balance how much we're swinging at once. Once we get into the final room, all we do is refuel the ship and we're ready to move on to the next voyage. However, before we do that, I want to talk about something stupid that this game has. Quite a few months back, I was actually playing this game on my second channel, Dxtr Black, but I stopped on episode 3 because this post-voyage section of the game was bugged. I said I'd come back to the game after it was fixed. What would happen is that the game would literally just freeze when doing certain things, and I was even able to still replicate it now, which happened in my newest playthrough of the game. What?
See, look, I already broke the game.
Turns out this bug is all tied to the FPS of the game. If you use the highest FPS to 40 like I do, not only can this bug occur, but it will also fuck up your camera movement 6 ways to Sunday, making you whip around so fast it gives you whiplash. This is the same problem I was having all those months ago. So, if you turn your FPS down to 60, not only will it fix the whole whiplash problem for some reason, it will also completely fix the freezing bug I had. I have no idea whatsoever how FPS has to play into any of this, and this is not the first game I've played with this weird problem. Weirdly enough, the Poppy Playtime games also have bugs on higher frame rates as well, the main one being that the grab pack will pull you upwards far fucking slower on higher FPS. Super weird, but I needed to point it out. On to voyage number 4, which is entirely new territory for me once again, and with this voyage comes one of the scariest threats yet. Lore-wise, not really gameplay-wise, I'm gonna be honest with you. During the phone call, it gets intercepted by a guy named Mason. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to know who Mason is at this time, but I'm gonna be so honest, I have no idea who the fuck Mason is, and I really can't be fucked to figure it out. Mason talks about how this new threat, who he calls the Kraken, has gotten on the ship and that it's very dangerous. Apparently, this robot is what the company doesn't want anyone knowing about, and we're completely alone on this massive ship with it. The Kraken's mechanic is pretty interesting, but I think it could have been done a lot better. The Kraken can be seen on the front of the ship through your window while you're driving. By holding shift, you can cause the horn of the ship to go off. Whenever you see the Kraken, blow the horn like the hose do and he'll go away. When your horn integrity runs out, all you have to do is go to the maintenance room and fix a pipe, which will then fix your horn. I don't really know how that makes any sense, but don't question it. That's just what we have to do. The Kraken does have another mechanic, although I personally never saw it. The Kraken has a chance to enter your maintenance room. If you ever see him in there, just turn around and that's literally it. Hey, recording Dxtr again. This isn't the Kraken that does this in the maintenance room. It's another fucking character I don't know the name of, but yeah, no, he was just never mentioned by a phone guy. It's just Just fuck me, I guess. Overall, I think the Kraken could be a cool mechanic. He kind of hides like he knows you're looking for him, but he always hides in the same spot. I think it would be a lot cooler and a lot more interesting if the Kraken had several hiding spots throughout the front of the ship that he'd hide in at random. Doing this would not only make the gameplay loop more interesting, but also keep the player on their toes throughout the entire voyage. Now, moving on to the post-voyage section. Spoiler alert, it's exactly the same as the last one. Doing the same tasks, albeit one of the puzzles is different, but still very simple, and the puppet thing is still trying to turn our guts into soup. Refill the tank at the end of this section of the voyage, and it is over, and we can move on to the 5th voyage. Voyage 5 adds nothing new to the gameplay loop, just being a harder version of Voyage 4, and a lot harder, that is. The characters really ramp up their AI on this night and get a lot more aggressive, which is an oddly nice change of pace. What really gets interesting is this post-voyage cutscene.
Why are you doing this? You think you can just take us away and destroy us and leave no trace of us left? I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. You have made a mistake doing this, and you know that. Malcolm, I know everything about you. You are just like everyone else I've killed. Weak. Maybe I know why you are even here to begin with. Is it because of your brother? I know you're hurt. And I know you want to take revenge, but you know deep down that you'll never defeat me. Never come back here. Never tell anyone about this, or else you'll have to face me.
And with that, we're surprisingly thrown into a 6th voyage. A 6th night is something that none of the other games have had so far, so this actually makes me very surprised. And turns out this final voyage is a boss fight with the Kraken, which is the name of the robot we just saw in the cutscene. Not actually the robot I was calling the Kraken earlier. I'm sure you could have guessed from this whole video, but I don't think the series is very good at explaining names. The Kraken obviously plays the role of all of the characters we've seen on the voyages so far, with a small twist when he plays as Shut and Dahomey. In both cases, when dealing with him, he activates a rat from Five Nights at Candy's 3 mechanic, where you have to track his head while he moves around. Awesome change of pace. I love that they added this little extra piece of detail. Really ties everything together. The dude that sits outside of your front window, and Scrap, which is the name of the character that I thought was the Kraken that sat in your maintenance room, had a chance to do it, and you turn around, it's that guy. His name is Scrap. I found this out only because of the fucking settings at the end of the game, because they never say his fucking name in the game. It's just stupid as fuck. But that's really it. Deal with all of the characters and try to avoid the fact that the Kraken killed a guy and attached his rib cage and head to his own fucked up robot body. Yeah, tell me that's not the most fucked up shit you've ever heard in your life. After completing the voyage, we get one last cutscene where we seemingly willingly drive the ship right into a giant rock to sink the entire thing and destroy ourselves, along with the murder robots that are inside of it. Honestly, a very good decision in my opinion. Really taking one for the team there, Malcolm. I appreciate it, G. But with that, everything is destroyed. We unlock the extras where I learned Dahomey wasn't even Dahomey the entire time I've been calling him the wrong fucking name, and that there are like 7 human characters that have a paragraph of text beneath them, all characters I'm supposed to be familiar with. Spoiler alert, I am not, so I'm just gonna pretend like I never opened the extras menu, and I'll just say that Five Nights at Marcus series comes to a close. Overall, I really think that this is a great series. I think it started started off pretty rocky, but overall it's clear you can see a real improvement from one game to another, especially with how amazing Far From Land is. Even though it has one of the stupidest bugs I've ever seen. I just really hate how lore-wise, I literally picked up none of it. Literally 0 pieces throughout my whole playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Asset dumping. The art of using random art from around the internet as all of your assets in a game. Seen with games like Getting Over It, Yandere Simulator, and plenty more. Five Nights at Freddy's games have their fair share of asset dumping as well. Five Nights at Wario's, One Night at Chica's Magic Rainbow, and of course, the very popular One Night at Frogger's. Usually seen as a very lazy way of creating art for your game, mainly because the creator isn't actually creating any art at all, but not all asset dumps are bad, and in its own way, they're an art form themselves, if you can build your environments properly. The game we'll be covering today is an asset dump fan game, and it's honestly become my favorite I've ever played. Today, we'll be talking about Late Shift at Nintendo World, the most stressful FNAF game I've ever played. Strap in, because I promise you, despite what it looks like, there's so much to talk about. So let's drag our balls into Night 1. Night 1, where it all begins, and where you might already become overwhelmed by the amount of possible things this game is about to throw at you. To start, I love the visual style of this game. While yes, it is just the typical asset dump, there are so many references stuffed into this game, it's amazing. And on top of that, the space in each room and camera is filled up so nicely. It's cluttered, but not so much so to the point that my eyes melt out of my skull. Anyways, before we start talking about the whopping 3 threats this night introduces, let's talk about the tools at our disposal and the locations we can travel to. Locations? What does that mean, Dxtr? Well, a location is a place you can go, you fucking moron. The first location is obviously your office. You'll see you have a large hallway in front of you, and of course, your cameras. Your cameras are pretty basic, except for the fact that they're dark as fuck. So we've been equipped with a camera flashlight. The way this flashlight works really makes me want to smother an owl. Every time you use it, only certain cameras will be lit up, since some cameras are outside where the flashlight doesn't reach. The camera light will only stay on for so long before shutting off, and making you wait for a cooldown to be able to turn it on again. Thankfully, the cameras aren't completely pitch black, so my balls get to stay attached to my body for another day. Now, let's talk about the second area you can go to, the outside fence area. Turning around, you'll find a large electric fence. You can tell it's an electric fence because it tells you so, which is very kind. You can hold down a button to charge up the electric fence, and when it charges, the fence will be shocked. Pretty sure that's not how an electric fence works, but to each their own, I suppose. And finally, the last place you can travel is the back shed. The only thing you can do here is hold the door to lock it. While that may seem a bit eerie and intimidating, you'd be right. It really is. But worry not, I'll cover why this place is so important in a little bit. With all of that out of the way, we can talk about the 3 threats this night introduces. Let's start with the main attraction himself, Mario. Mario is disgusting. Literally, look at this model. What the fuck is this thing?
Ew. Dude, that thing is fucking nasty.
Anyways, now that we're done pointing and laughing at him, what does he do? Mario will work his way to your office through 3 cameras. On each of these cameras, above your light button, you'll notice a music button also appears. If you ever see Mario on one of these cameras, simply press the music button and he will be pushed back 1 camera. Note that he won't be pushed all the way back to his starting camera. So if he travels through multiple cameras, you'll have to follow the cameras pushing him back 1 by 1. Very simple character. As long as you're constantly watching him, which you probably will be, he really shouldn't be an issue. The second threat this night introduces is Mario's taller, skinnier, and much more fuckable brother, Luigi. I'd let his mustache tickle my taint. What? Anyways, Luigi makes use of that spooky little back shed we were talking about earlier. Luigi will appear on camera 9, which connects directly to the hallway in front of your office. You will need to constantly watch camera 9 for when Luigi appears, and once he disappears from camera 9, then you will know he's in your hallway. Something else you'll notice is that you'll never actually see Luigi in your hallway, and there's no camera for the hallway either, and he won't actually appear in the office as well. So you really need to be paying attention. Once you know that Luigi is in your hallway, you will need to hop bottom to the back shed and hold the door locked. Luigi will peer in at you, meaning he was following your big fat juicy bouncing jiggling ass all the way over here. Once Luigi leaves the window of the shed, you're free to go back to the office. Luigi brings up a great synergy with Mario. Both requiring plenty of attention on the cameras really goes to make these two a dangerous combo, and I really don't want to be stuffed by two Italian sausages. I also wouldn't want to eat a sausage anyways. Oh! Oh! Whoa. 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 That's cool. That's cool. I do like that. That is pretty fucking cool. I do like that. This game's gonna get fucking hard, isn't it, dude? The final threat this night introduces is Pikachu for some fucking reason, but whatever. Pikachu makes use of the big electric fence behind you. Occasionally, Pikachu will be visible behind it, and this is when you'll notice that apparently Pikachu came from fucking Jurassic Park because this fat motherfucker is the size of Jupiter. Of course, once you see Pikachu trying to get a peek at your pecker, see what I did there? All you have to do is charge up the electric fence and give him a taste of his own medicine by shocking him like he does to Ash, and he finally will leave you alone again. I can handle a lot, but I personally think an 18-foot tall Pikachu meat between my buns would be a little too much for me. But if you can manage to learn how all these characters work together, you'll move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces a plethora of new threats, signaling to me that this may be one of the most challenging FNAF games I will ever play. It's only Night 2, and 2 new threats are added, bringing the total number of threats on Night 2 all the way up to 5. So let's talk about them. The first threat introduced on Night 2 is Kirby. I love Kirby. Kirby would never hurt me. That's a lie. This Kirby certainly would. On both your boiler room camera and back room camera, you will see 2 heat symbols have appeared. Kirby will attempt to get into your office via either of these 2 vents. So hooray! We have 2 more mandatory cameras that require our attention. The way you deal with Kirby is simple. Same as Luigi. When he enters the camera, all is good. But the moment he disappears from the camera means he's about to start rolling through your vent and into your office. When he disappears, hit the heat button to scare Kirby out of the vents. The heat only lasts 1 second, however, so you really need to make sure you time it properly. However, now is the time I get to tell you about the worst and most frustrating character we've seen so far, Meta Knight. That's right, we get 2 Kirby characters introduced at once, and just like Meta Knight in Smash Bros, he is an annoying pain in the dick. Meta Knight acts as a Foxy-like character in this game. He will appear in camera 2, which is the entrance. He will make his way through a few stages, and once he disappears from camera 2, he will charge at your office, and you'll be able to hear his footsteps quickly approaching. What you'll have to do is, as fast as you fucking can, run to the back shed and lock the door. Come in real close for me, just for a second. I'm gonna whisper this in your ear, so make sure you turn your volume up so you can hear me. You got it? Yeah? Volume all the way up? Okay, great. Don't let anyone know I told you this, okay? Meta Knight is so goddamn cock-sucking fast! You barely have any time to react once you hear his footsteps coming. You quite literally have just enough time to get to the back shed and close the door. This motherfucker is brutal. But Dxtr, you're supposed to watch him in camera 2, and once he leaves, then you go to the shed. Sounds pretty easy to me. Shut the fuck up! While yes, it's true that once he leaves camera 2, he will charge at you, watching him really doesn't even fucking matter. Because the moment he leaves 2, the sound cue of him running starts playing. So you might as well just wait for the fucking sound cue, since watching him will only waste the precious time you need to focus on the other characters that actually do give you the time of day to deal with them. And if that wasn't bad enough, Meta Knight is in the entrance, an outdoor camera, which means not only is it dark as fuck, but your fucking camera light doesn't work on that camera anyways! So you have to rely on the fucking lightning to be able to see jack dick from that camera. But the lightning is not consistent at all. It's completely random, and it only lights up outside cameras for, oh, I don't know, maybe less than a fucking second. So if you want to check the entrance, you either have to just fucking sit there and wait for the lightning to show up, which could take several seconds that you need to be using to check on the other characters, or you could wait to hear the lightning and try to quickly flip to camera 2 to check on this annoying fucker. Both options suck dick, so I guess pick your fucking poison. But If you can tighten your sphincter and listen closely and have reflexes like a god for long enough, Meta Knight will fold, you will complete Night 2, and we can begrudgingly move on to Night 3, where I can only hope to God that 3 more characters aren't introduced. Night 3, here we are. Let me tell you guys, this night does nothing to help with my crippling mental state, because let me tell you, this night is hard. Like, really fucking hard. Let's talk about the threats introduced and why this night is so ass. This night only introduces 2 threats. However, one of them is easily the most infuriating character in this entire game. So let's talk about the one that doesn't make me want to stick my willy in a pencil sharpener first. Link. Link appears in the courtyard where we deal with Pikachu. You'll notice on this night that as you go to the courtyard, you'll now be equipped with a metal pipe. This pipe is used as a form of defense against Link. When Link appears in the courtyard, he will giggle really fucking loud to let you know he's there. You will have to hit him 3 times in order for him to go away. Every time you hit him, he will teleport to a different spot on the screen. However, you can only hit him when the Majora's Mask's eyes are red. If they're blue, you'll have to stare at him until they turn red before you can start hitting him. This brings up even more evil synergies with fuck-ass Meta Knight, since you won't be able to pass him until you kill him.
Bro, he won't die. What? He wouldn't die. The Majora's Mask guy wouldn't die. And Meta Knight was coming. What was I supposed to do?
Now, let's talk about one of the worst and most stressful characters known to mankind, Ness. On Night 3, you'll notice in the shed that we now have a new addition of a fuse box. However, you'll notice that this fuse box only has 1 fuse, but there are 3 places for a fuse to go. You can freely move this fuse from one slot to another, but what does this fuse actually control? Well, on 3 cameras on the map that connect to the hallway in front of your office, there is a fire alarm in each of them. However, the button for the fire alarm will only appear on the camera that is adjacent to whichever slot in the fuse box holds the fuse. So if your fuse is in slot B, then camera 9 will have the smoke alarm button on the cameras. Ness will appear in any of these 3 possible cameras. When he appears on one of them, you will have to play the smoke alarm to scare him away. Yes, this means that if your fuse is in slot B and you see Ness on camera 11, you will have to quickly run all the way to the back shed and switch the fuse to slot C, then run all the way back and hope you were fast enough to play the smoke alarm in time. And you want to hear the best part? Ness blends in with the background while the lights are off better than any other character in this entire fucking game. So have fun being able to find him. He also really likes to hide on the side of the cameras, so you'll have to spend even more time slowly panning the 3 cameras he can be in back and forth to really be able to tell if he's in one of them. Easily the character I died to the most, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I think I'm willing to say I hate Ness more than Meta Knight, honestly, but it's really, really close. Fuck Ness, he's a bitch. Night 4. Holy shit. I did not think they could make it any worse. And that's exactly what they did. Night 4 adds 3 new characters. Yes, I'm serious. They added 3 more fucking characters to this game, bringing the total up to like fucking, I don't know, 12? I'm not keeping track anymore. This is just insane. Before we start talking about the threats, Juniper, the phone girl, told us that there's an investigation going on. She doesn't tell us what it's about though, just says that the park might close soon for a while. She also does mention that some of the characters are starting to attack patrons during the day, so that bodes great for what they're going to do to us tonight. Speaking of, who are they? Well, let's talk about the smallest problem this night introduces, Fox Puppet. But it's really just fucking Star Fox. Star Fox has a chance to appear in the courtyard behind the fence. However, he is not a fan of being shocked by it, so if you electrocute him, he's gonna dive into your butt. Get it? Because foxes do that thing where they jump really high and dive, but he's diving into your... You get it, fuck me. When he's at your fence, all you have to do is spam your flashlight at him and he'll go away. Really not a big deal at all, and honestly, the amount of time you have to flash him is pretty forgiving. And you can even go to the back shed while he's standing there if you really want to, so in all honesty, he's not that bad. However, the next fuckhead we'll have to talk about is a pain in the dick, Captain Olimar. I'm pretty sure is who this is at least. He will appear in the hallway in your office with 2 sets of eyes. I mention his eyes because they're very important to his attack. On night 4, a thermostat will become present in your back shed. and he directly correlates with this thermostat. When you hear him enter your office, which is signaled by some footsteps, you will have to look at his eyes. If both sets of eyes are red, you will have to run to the back shed and set the thermostat to hot. If they're both blue, set it to cold, and if one set is blue and the other set are red, then set the thermostat to mixed. After a few seconds, all alarms should go away. I don't think I need to explain why this is so horseshit to deal with, especially considering the amount of characters that require so much attention, so I'm not even gonna bring it up. Just know that I'm on the verge of peeling my foreskin like a banana. The final threat this night introduces, which yes, in case you forgot, there is still another threat to throw on top of all this bullshit, is Samus. Samus will enter your office through your hallway on either side. The cameras in which she will try to enter from will now be equipped with a lock button. They're not toggleable and must be held to hold the gutters shut. When you see Samus in either of these cameras, simply hold the lock button shut for a few seconds and she'll run away. Ironically enough, even with all of these threats active, Ness is still the character that has caused me the most suffering throughout this game. He is easily the most frustrating threat of all time. I've also died to Luigi a decent handful of times at this point, just because of how easy it is to forget about him. There is surely no way this game can get any harder. Right? It got harder, so let's talk about it. The phone call from Juniper on this night has her talking about how I shouldn't come to work tomorrow and that I'm stupid for clocking in today. That we agree on. I'm not really sure why I'm here. Apparently things are getting super dangerous, so that's awesome. There's a new threat on this night who doesn't like bright lights, so Juniper said she's changed out our camera lights. Great! Hopefully they're better now. They're worse. Oh, so very worse than they were before. Now, instead of having the brightness on the cameras for a few seconds and having a long recharge time, we now have less than a second flash of light and we get a faster recharge time. This is worse in every single conceivable way possible. Dude, this new flashlight thing, fuck this. Oh my god. What is this guy gonna look like, dude? Fuck me. I personally think that a great deal of this game's difficulty comes from it being difficult to see and track the characters. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I know the retards over on Reddit like to misconstrue every single point I've ever made. No, I think it's cool that finding the characters is a challenge. However, now only having this small flash of light makes it so fucking much more AIDS-ridden to be able to do so. So, why on earth was our camera light downgraded this badly? Well, to deal with the one new threat this night introduces. Mario. Dxtr? Mario was already introduced on night 1. Did you already forget? No, dear viewer. I did not forget that. There are just 2 fucking Marios now. Why not? Fuck it, right? Why not add another existing Nintendo character? Why Mario again? I have no fucking idea. I don't really understand the thought process here, but we're just gonna shut our fucking mouths and roll with it. This Mario is easily the most stress-inducing character we've seen so far. More stressful than Ness, more stressful than Meta Knight. Occasionally, throughout this night, you'll hear Mario say, "Wahoo." And that just means bad news for you. Do you want to take a solid guess as to what you have to do when you hear this sound cue? Go on, go ahead. Guess for me. I've not really complained about any of the mechanics introduced so far, as I feel each of them are pretty unique and offer something of substance to the gameplay loop. So come on, tell me what you think this game is about to do to me. Come here, come here, come here, come here, guess! Guess, you piece of shit! Guess what this game did to me! You have to go find Mario on one of the cameras at random and flash him with your light. I'll find them on the camera mechanic again! How many videos in a row have we had this on this channel? I don't think there's ever been a video where this dog shit cock-sucking mechanic wasn't present! And that's not all. No. Not only do you have to find him on a random camera that he teleports to once, no. You have to find him on a random camera that he teleports to 3 times in a fucking row! Are you kidding me? Most characters in this game only have you deal with them once or twice throughout the night. Mario? At least fucking 3! You have to find this motherfucker on a random camera, while timed, by the way, and dealing with every other character at the same time, a whopping 9 fucking times! Fuck! 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 can't fucking handle this shit. This is too much for my brain to handle. Over 10 fucking characters to deal with at the same goddamn time. And all of a sudden I'm in with this bullshit. This game is shoving carrots in my ass like some Bugs Bunny shit. What the fuck is wrong with you? Give me another character that forces me to go to this shit. I don't give a fuck. Not another. Find them on the fucking camera character. You've got to be fucking me in my rear. Go find my dick. Go find my ass. Go find my balls. Go find my taint. Go find my tits. Chop my penis into 10 fucking pieces and throw each piece onto a camera and go fucking find them all. Fuck you! Nintendo, no, you ain't gonna stop me when I get it going. I ain't gonna slow, no, curtains ain't closing. Pouring all the salt, keep the insults flowing. Light up all the incense, come before the storm. Gather in the Smash Bros army like a swarm. Find them on the cameras, nothing but the norm. Cause another crash out, dog, I'm getting bored. Said, dog, I'm getting bored with you. I'm warning you. You don't really wanna start another war, do you? I don't know who's been around here misinforming you. When you fuck with Dxtr, what the horn's pouring at you. Up first, Mario is on the chopping block. The fat fuck plumber getting nothing on his cock. His bitch is locked up with a laser, dropping cheeks on his rock hard fucking penis round the clock. God damn, it's fucking embarrassing. Her hair's in a bun and he's burying himself in her and she's having fun and he's getting his coming her, sending videos of him fucking her. Check your messages and see. I'll get her home when I'm done with her. Daisy's with him too, Luigi don't know the truth. He's staring at the video, skin white like King Boo. Does he dare to check another? No, it ain't true. Check your Snapchat, bro. She's saying he's bigger than you. Damn! I dumb bitch, I've been locked in on like Samus and that other bitch, Mega Man. Link on my shit, I could knock you with both hands. Make your head spin, do a dance on your can. Pikachu, flash a light at Pikachu. You behind the fence, I charge it up and thunderbolt you. Now you fried up, but we still got another hoe to boot. Star Fox turn, flash, epilepsy. Ooh! You get a seizure, Kirby in my heater. Blast his ass into the fucking ether. Samus back, her ass so fat I need her. Call her lowest way, she grip my Peter. Nintendo, no! Never gonna switch games, I'm about to blow. I've been making big waves, I've been good to go. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Nintendo, no! I've been shooting at them like it's Rochambeau. I could kamikaze on their Rainbow Road. I might cause a riot when I beat them bros. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Alright, coming real close. Answer me this question, why you bitches on my chode? Ness is looking at me, licking lips, don't want it though. Gotta flip the fuse box, keep this on the low. Alright, look, I don't know why you're doing this shit. I'm just trying to do my job and you keep riding on my dick. If it was Samus, that'd be fine, but it'd be everybody. Why you're trying to make it through the week, but you keep stretching out the time. Like my asshole, keep on pulling me in with a lasso. Ride me like a cowboy in the desert in El Paso. Friday come along and met a night be on me bed and matter of fact, he spanked me with a paddle, made my ass rattle. Put a saddle on me, hit me with a rowel, then he growl in the locker rooms. He hit me with a towel, then he plowing on my shit. I'm doing tricks up on a stick. I did the splits contortionist aboard that flip me over, slide me, bend me over backwards. Nintendo, no! Never gonna switch games, I'm about to blow. I've been making big waves, I've been good to go. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Nintendo, no! I've been shooting at them like it's Rochambeau. I could kamikaze on their Rainbow Road. I might cause a riot when I beat them bros. Do you need to hit save, Annie, yes or no? Well, glad I got all that out of my system. With that, we can move on to night 6 and talk about something that actually doesn't make me want to kill myself. However, it does still lay a lot on you. Loading into night 6, you'll see we're no longer in the office and we are now actually in a fucking bunker. How did we get here? I have no idea, but that doesn't really matter. What does matter, however, are the new tools at our disposal. However, me explaining all of them to you right now will not be very helpful. So I'll quickly explain the general tools, and then we'll talk about the character-specific ones as we learn about said characters. Obviously, we have our cameras, pretty self-explanatory. We also have 3 entrances to our office, the big hallway right in front of us, and 2 doors to our left and right. These doors can be closed remotely through the cameras, but you have to slowly charge them up before they can close, and only one can be closed at a time. Also, at any time we'd like, we can cut the power to our office and be left in complete darkness with our thoughts, like me late at night questioning what I'm even doing anymore. But this isn't a therapy session, so let's continue. What about the threats introduced on this night? Given the fact we're in a different location, it has to be different characters, right? Well, that would actually be correct. However, one of the characters is a repeat. Remember that one Mario that I really didn't like from Night 5? I know I was pretty subtle about it. Well, it appears he followed us down here. However, he is incredibly easy to deal with this time around. He'll wander around the cameras and eventually find his way into your office. Once he stands in front of you, menacingly, all you have to do is whip out your fucking baton like my Willy and tase him in the balls. I'm not kidding. This is fucking awesome and is just what I need after dealing with the bullshit he put me through on Night 5. The next threat introduced on this night is Mega Man. He is also pretty simple. He will try to enter your office through your left or right door. When you see him in that door's respective camera, simply charge up that door and seal it shut. Once he bangs on it, you're free to open the door again. Next, we've got to talk about the Villager. She confused me quite a bit during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. She will enter your office through any of the 3 possible entrances. Her rules state that once she enters your office, shut the lights off until you hear her run away. So tell me, what do you think that means? If you answered, wait until she appears in your office like Mario, then cut the lights until you hear footsteps, then turn the lights back on and continue, then you'd be completely fucking wrong, because she actually never appears in your office at all. You cannot see her when she's inside of your office, even if she is literally there. So, how are you meant to deal with her then? Well, you'll have to carefully track her on the cameras. When she enters camera 8, 7, or 6, her next movement will be into your office. So, if you see her on one of those cameras and then don't see her anymore, that means she's currently in your office and you need to cut the lights. The best part? If you have the left door closed and she goes to camera 6, indicating that she will be entering your office through the left door, even if it's closed like we've already established, she'll still be able to enter your office through that door. Isn't that just amazing? Anyways, I could point out the nuances all day long, but that's not what you're here for. The final threat introduced on this night is Andross, a character I've legitimately never seen before in my entire life. I've been able to recognize each character so far, even if I haven't played the game they were from, like Star Fox, for example. But Andross? What the fuck is even that? Okay, I just looked it up. It's the main antagonist of Star Fox. Crazy coincidence that I just mentioned Star Fox and that I've never played it. That would make sense as to why I didn't know who this was then. Anyways, what does he actually do? Well, in my opinion, he is the most annoying character on this night. He is completely invisible on the cameras, and if he ever gets into your office, you die. In order to track him, you have to use the camera's built-in motion detectors. However, something really interesting about these motion detectors is that they're a piece of shit. Every single camera has the motion detector button. However, only one of the buttons on the cameras will work at a time, at random, and every few seconds, which camera has the working button will switch randomly. Meaning that, even though there's no character on this night that has a find them on the camera mechanic, these fucked up, morbid devs somehow find a way to work that bullshit into the fucking UI! What the fuck are you doing to me? I need to relax. I can't scream anymore. Breathe. How do we deal with Andross? Well, when he is on either camera 8, 7, or 6, you will have to use your heater on whichever camera he's on. Using the UI on the cameras, you can select which camera the heater targets and then blast heat into said camera remotely. Doing so will scare Andross away. Now, that's all of the characters this night introduces. However, there's still one more very important thing I've neglected to mention. Unlike every other night present in this game, Night 6 has a task-based completion system rather than a survival-based one. So that bodes the question, what is the task we have to complete? Well, on the computer at your desk, there are 5 important files we have to decrypt and extract onto our USB drive. The way we decrypt them is simple. Several strings of 4-digit number codes will appear on the monitor, and all we have to do is type them in. Type in several 4-string digit codes without messing up in a row, and trust me, it'll feel like you'll have to do this a billion fucking times, and you'll download one of the files. Do this for all 5 files, and the night is over. This task being added to this night easily makes it the most stressful mechanic this game has ever introduced. I was not expecting something like this from this game, and I honestly wasn't expecting a crazy final night like this in general. I'm all for it. Overall, I do still think Night 5 was harder than this night, but this was definitely a nice change of pace. After completing the night, we take our USB, run out of the bunker and into the parking lot, and drive off to the police station to show them our evidence. Looking back, we notice Mario followed us out and was left standing in the parking lot. We almost didn't make it out alive. It's revealed that our name isn't really Terrence, and we've secretly been an undercover investigator this entire time. The police raided Nintendo World and arrested the CEO, Leonard. Everything we mentioned in our report was found, except for one single thing: Mario himself. The only thing that was left to even prove he was present was his hat. Not knowing his whereabouts now, Late Shift at Nintendo World comes to a close. Kind of. There's actually a fuck ton more this game has to offer in the form of post-game content and challenges, with a whopping 12 additional characters for us to unlock and fuck around with. There's 9 other ones? There's 12 more? At the time of writing, I have no idea how these characters are achieved except for one. In the challenges menu, 2 fun challenges are present, and when I say fun, I really just mean ass. The first is blind mode, which will cause a constant blizzard to be present during the nights, making it harder to see in your office and in the courtyard. It also forces Night 5's shitty flash mechanic throughout the nights, and increases the amount of time you have to wait between flashes to make it even worse. And if that wasn't enough, blind mode still has one more big fuck you in the form of a new threat: the Ice Climbers. The way they work is pretty simple, but retarded nonetheless. They have a chance to appear in any of the 3 major locations you can be in. If you ever see them, you just have to go to another area until they leave. I can't describe how terrible that sounds. Again, at the time of writing this, I have no plans to attempt this challenge, nor any of the custom night modes, which I assume will unlock the remaining characters. I do have the thought of attempting these on stream in the coming weeks, so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing me doing and covering. Overall, I think Late Shift at Nintendo World is actually amazing. While I did find a lot of the characters annoying and stressful, the overall gameplay loop is very satisfying to nail down and will leave you feeling like a badass as you complete it. Yes, the entire game is just an asset dump, but you can't deny the crazy amount of effort and care put into it, and that's something I can always appreciate. Well, let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just another shitty asset dump to be thrown onto the pile? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF 87 rewritten video, I asked you guys what your favorite FNAF 2 remake was and why, and my favorite answer was this one by Mr. Stick Official. They said FNAF 2 Reimagined, and yeah, that's an incredibly fair answer. That game was amazing, and you can watch my review of that game over on this channel after you finish this video. Recently, I've been covering a lot of very well-known fan games on this channel. Five Nights at Candy's, Pop Goes, and Animatronic Memories are probably names you're all familiar with. Recently, I've been looking for a FNAF game to cover that I personally had never heard of, and today I've definitely found one. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's super weird, but however, it does have its charm and an amazing story. So, let's waste no time and hop right into Tales of the Bunnyman. Tales of the Bunnyman opens with a cutscene that reminds me a lot of the old official Five Nights at Freddy's trailers, specifically Five Nights at Freddy's 2. We get several shots of the pizzeria interlaced with pieces of dialogue explaining the exposition of the story. We play as a man named Vincent Baldwin, who we later learn used to be a night guard and is one of the missing children's fathers, the father of Cassidy. We're entering the building to do some investigating and find out where our missing child went. And with our motive in mind, we're safe to head into Night 1 and start talking about what this game really has to offer. Night 1 introduces 2 characters, but before I start talking about them, I want to talk about the office itself. In our office, the first thing I want to get out of the way is this picture. I don't know who this is. I checked the wiki and couldn't figure out who this is. That's it. I just don't know who this is. Anyways, on to something actually important. The coolest thing I noticed about this office is that there are actually 2 rooms that we can move between, the typical office room and the boiler room. I'll talk more about the boiler room later when it becomes important. The door to the boiler room can be held shut, as animatronics will actually have to travel through it in order to get to your office. The only other things in our office is our camera system and a giant gift box. We can hide inside of this gift box to be able to protect ourselves from the first major threat of this night, Foxy. Foxy behaves pretty much exactly the same as in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. He starts on Pirate's Cove and makes his way through some phases before attacking. However, something unique about Foxy is he actually has two completely different attacks he can perform, each of which requires you to do something completely different to counteract him. The first attack he has is pretty simple. After he leaves Pirate's Cove, he will charge towards your office. When he does, you'll have to quickly jump inside the present until you hear him run away, after which you can jump back out and continue. His other attack is unfortunately a mechanic I've grown to dislike more and more as I play FNAF games. After leaving Pirate's Cove, Foxy has a chance to appear randomly on one of your cameras. When he does, all you have to do is find him and stare at him until he goes back to Pirate's Cove. This is mainly a me thing, but I've personally grown tired of the find them on the cameras mechanic. Yes, I do play Five Nights at Freddy's for a living, so yes, I'm going to see repeated mechanics a lot. Most sane people don't play as much Five Nights at Freddy's as I do, so most people won't find this mechanic to be that big of a deal, but hey, at least it's not a stupid fucking music box mechanic. We'll talk about that later. The only other threat introduced on this night is Bonnie. Bonnie is incredibly simple in how he works, as is typical in most FNAF games that feature him. Bonnie will make his way through the building and to your office. Afterwards, you'll be able to hear him at your door. You'll need to quickly go up to the door and hold it shut until you hear him leave, like Five Nights at Freddy's 4. When you do, you'll know it's safe to reopen the door and continue the night. Very basic. That's just how we like Bonnie, isn't it, guys? Right? You like it when Bonnie's basic, right? You wouldn't want Bonnie to just hot bottom right into your office and start fingering you, would you? Freak. And with that, we can move on to the post-night 1 minigame. Here's where we get to talking a lot about how cool this game really is. This game does narrative storytelling in a different way than any other FNAF game I've ever seen. Instead of an 8-bit minigame or a slideshow lore dump, Tales of the Bunnyman turns into a visual novel during the post-night sections, having you play in the perspective of a different character each night. I think this is actually super cool. While yes, you may think that it looks straight out of a My Hero Academia DeviantArt fan page, it is very clear that an amazing amount of care and effort went into these post-night sections, and that cannot go unnoticed. Before I really start talking about the lore of this game, I need to make it incredibly clear that there was so much poured into this story. There's so many details that I could point out that would make this video quite literally take hours to complete. And while I'd love to be able to talk about all of it, I don't have the confidence in myself to do so, and to be able to portray it in the way that it rightfully deserves. I'll be going over what happens in the story, but I won't be diving into every single minute detail, and I apologize if you were hoping that I would. Anyways, in this minigame, we play in the perspective of Jeremy Jr. Fitzgerald. After hanging out with his friends at Freddy Fazbear's, he notices that his mom has not yet come to pick him up. After waiting an extended period of time, he decides to just watch the performance on stage. Hearing a strange whistling coming from backstage, he enters to investigate, only to abruptly get abducted and murdered by the Bunny Man, going on to possess Bonnie. I honestly think that these post-night minigames are a breath of fresh air in this genre. I've never seen anything like it before, and I'd love to see more FNAF games try to do something new like this to tell their story. But now it's time for us to move on to Night 2. Night 2 only introduces one new thread, that being Chica. Chica does exactly what you'd expect her to do, and no, I don't mean eating until she pops like a balloon. What I really mean is moving through the cameras and then going to your office.
Oh my fucking god, that is gross. Yuck. Fucking yuck, bro.
She does go through one additional camera compared to Bonnie, making you see her less often than him, but other than that, she's exactly the same as Bonnie. I'll also use this night to talk about the only thing I dislike about this game. The mouse.
Oh my god, this mouse is atrocious. Oh no, this mouse is really bad.
If you're at all familiar with my channel, you'll already know that the way the mouse works is always something I'll have a problem with when fan games try to switch it up. In most FNAF games, when you move your mouse to the side of the screen will scroll in that direction until it hits the end of your office. That makes sense, and this is good. Tales of the Bunnyman instead decided to take a route similar to Sister Location. If you are to move your mouse to one side of the screen in Tales of the Bunnyman, your mouse won't follow the moving office. Instead, the game will keep track of its simulated X and Y positions in the office. And while this may sound super cool, in practice it leads to you having to move your mouse all the way across your desk or increasing your mouse's sensitivity to be able to make up for it. Is this nitpicky? Yes. But I am giving my opinion on a game, so I think it's important to talk about things that I notice, especially when it's the main interaction mechanic in the entire game. Anyways, moving on to the post-Night 2 minigame, where we play in the perspective of Susie Sutherland. The group of friends were supposed to play the newly installed arcade game, Pop Goes versus the Machinist? 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 Mechanist? Machinist? I don't know. Instead, she decides to split up from the group to go look for Bonnie. Walking around the building, we can talk to a kid named Ollie, who mentions something about Bonnie acting weird recently. Given the timeline of the events this game has, I'm fairly certain that this cutscene is taking place 16 days after Jeremy's disappearance. So I think it's safe to say that Jeremy at this point in time is already inside of the Bonnie costume. During this minigame is when Susie can also find a VHS tape relating to Edwin Murray. If you couldn't already tell, this game's story is heavily entwined with the official FNAF games. Later, Susie heads over to Pirate's Cove to get a peek at Foxy, getting startled by William inside of the Spring Bonnie suit. It's at this point I need to mention two things. One, why is this specific camera in the post-nights a 3D render instead of the usual 2D drawing? And two, why is William the only character in the entire game to have voice acting? Mr. Afton, don't scare me like that.
Now, what's a missy like you doing snooping around a pirate's property?
Why is he voice acted? I'm much more curious about my second question. I was a little caught off guard when I first heard him speak, since, again, nobody in the game thus far ever has. But regardless, that's not very important. After a brief, uncomfortable conversation with Afton, we meet up with our friends again at the new arcade machine, and as we play the game, we're seen being stalked by the Bunnyman. If you couldn't already guess, Susie Sutherland goes on to possess Chica. Now it's time to talk about Night 3, which introduces one new threat, Freddy and the Marionette. Now, pause. Let's just stop for a moment and talk about Freddy first, okay? Freddy, like Foxy, has two different attacks. We'll talk about the more simple one first. Freddy will make his way through the cameras and enter your boiler room. The reason he does so is to attempt to cut the power, because doing so will allow for the Marionette to come spread your buns and lick up your crack. To prevent this from happening, we will have to enter the boiler room and hold our flashlight on his face, causing him to bug out and leave the boiler room. However, before he does, we actually get to see him creepily tilt his body. Such a small detail, but I actually really like it. Now we can talk about the other mechanic Freddy has that I originally thought was going to make me want to skin an elephant. As previously mentioned, it's clear that Freddy wants to assist in helping the Marionette grope us. So, Freddy's other attack is him going to the music box to fuck up the Marionette's sleep schedule. Fun fact, I used to work a graveyard shift at a news station, and let me tell you, you don't want to fuck with nobody's sleep schedule, bro. So, in order to save the Marionette's sanity, we must remotely shut down the music box before Freddy can finish. Moving on to the Night 3 post-night minigame, we play in the perspective of Fritz Smith II. Let me tell you, this guy is a big fan of Foxy. So much so that he insists on constantly talking like a pirate. Something that made me want to eat my own lungs throughout my playthrough because I was writhing in cringe. A.S. the worst one. It be fixin' to be jolly. What the fuck does that mean? Fritz leaves the group to go look for Foxy. Going to Pirate's Cove, he finds a decommissioned Foxy behind the curtains. Additionally, he finds a diary written by Henry. I guess for some reason, this is where Henry goes to vent. Right next to the fucked up looking robot. A little weird, Henry, but you do you, boo. Inside of the diary, we read that Henry is struggling to cope with the loss of his daughter and his theory about Jeremy and Susie's disappearances having something to do with each other. Little did he know how right he truly was. Whilst continuing to read the diary, the bunny man appears behind him and drags him into the back room, all while taunting him, saying that he thought he was more interested in Foxy than Henry's diary. Fritz would go on to possess Foxy. Moving on to night 4, we get to talk about a very odd threat, Balloon Boy. Yes, for some reason, Balloon Boy is in this game. Don't question it. I guess the developer of this game just hates fun. Balloon Boy isn't a very difficult threat to deal with, thankfully, instead serving more of an annoyance, which is very fitting for his character. Balloon Boy can only appear in 2 rooms in the entire game, the boiler room and your backstage camera. You'll have to listen out for a vent sound cue. When you hear it, you'll have to travel to the back room and find where Balloon Boy is, because, unlike Freddy, he has multiple different locations that he can stand in. Once you find Balloon Boy, just like Freddy, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on him until he goes away. I'm really not entirely sure why Balloon Boy exists in this game. I have yet to find any story reason for it either. Maybe it's just a popular character to put into the game, or maybe I'm just reading way too much into this. I'm not really sure. But hey, let's move on to the post-night 4 minigame. In this minigame, we play as Gabriel Collins. Gabriel sneaks into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza because he has a hunch that his missing friends are still inside. Once he enters, he searches the location, eventually discovering the marionette. They quickly become friends and begin exploring the establishment together. Eventually, they stumble across Michael and William Afton. William is trying to convince Michael to work as a performer, playing the character of Bonnie. But before we can hear anything else, William spots us. He chases us through the building, and the marionette hides us in its gift box. However, unfortunately for Gabriel, William finds him anyway and is knocked out. He wakes up inside of the Freddy Fazbear costume, watching William Afton jump around the dining room, mocking him through his last breaths. Gabriel would then go on to possess Freddy. This is easily one of the most fucked up cutscenes throughout the entire game. I'm no edgelord, as some people seem to think I am, but I really enjoy when games show us the depraved things that the villains do. I and many others don't want to just hear about things happening, we want to see them as well. Of course, I don't think we all want to literally see the children getting murdered, but I think showing off the situations in the way that Tales of the Bunnyman does is incredibly interesting. Next, we get to move on to Night 5, the final main night in Tales of the Bunnyman. This night adds Fredbear, an interesting but fitting final character choice. Fredbear acts as an everything character, being able to take on the role of every animatronic besides Balloon Boy and Foxy. However, unlike most everything nights that take place in other FNAF games, Fredbear is active alongside each other animatronic, adding one more layer of stress to the nights. Again, he doesn't have any unique mechanics by himself, but this time I'm honestly okay with that, only because the other characters are still active. It's at this point I want to bring up something I should have brought up a long time ago: the character designs. From what I've seen, the community seems to be pretty split on their opinions of these character designs. A lot of people love them and think that in combination with the grungy environment, it makes them look very creepy. However, on the other hand, I've seen plenty of people who think that the designs look unprofessional and seemingly come out of a game that came out many years ago. I personally have no problems with the character designs. I think they look creepy and uncomfortable. However, I do think that the texturing on the characters does look a bit odd, but nothing that I feel takes away from the immersion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Also, since I'm being a little meta right now, go subscribe to my new channel, Dxtr Gray. I cover non-FNAF horror games over there, and we have a lot of fun. Anyways, moving on to the final post-night minigame where we play in the perspective of Cassandra Baldwin, or better known, Cassidy. Now, noticing that she's the only member of her friend group that hasn't gone missing, she vows to figure out what happened to them and find where they all disappeared to. Entering the back room, she finds a Fredbear plushie which, throughout the game, has been shown to be able to teleport on its own, and yet, for some reason, nobody felt like that was weird at all. This is really the only gripe I have with this story, the plushie teleporting around, and multiple people know about this, yet nobody is at all a little concerned about it. On top of that, it is literally never once elaborated on or explained why this happens. I can't even draw a conclusion because there's quite literally no reason, but let's try to put that behind us for a moment and continue. We do know that the plushie is being used by Afton to lure Cassidy into the back room. Now, pause. I know I just said there's literally no reason given as to why it's teleporting, and you may be questioning why I said that even though I just stated that William was using it to lure Cassidy. However, that still doesn't explain how it was fucking teleporting, and still doesn't explain why nobody gave that a second thought. Anyways, Cassidy is successfully lured into the back room. Scared, Cassidy runs out of the pizzeria and later returns for a Halloween party. Baka! I know that's not what that says, I'm sorry. As she explores, she's found by the bunny man who presumably knocks her out after stating, "You forgot me." She awakens to find herself inside of the Fredbear costume. William explains that originally he planned to save the Fredbear costume for Henry, but decided to use it for Cassidy instead. During their conversation, it's revealed that Vincent, the character that we've been playing as in the night sections, according to William, is a terrible night guard, which would technically leave him responsible for not noticing the children's disappearances on the camera, since every action that William had been taking was done under the constant surveillance of those cameras, including what's happening right now in front of us. This would give us a perfect reason as to why he's returning to the restaurant now to find his daughter, because he didn't watch her like he was supposed to. He never saw what happened. Afterwards, we get one last cutscene. Vincent walks up to the Fredbear animatronic and realizes it's his daughter. However, he trips and falls, which leads to him getting killed by his own daughter, and Tales of the Bunny Man abruptly comes to a close. Almost. There's actually one more thing to talk about, that being Night 6, or as this game calls it, the epilogue. In it, after completing the final challenge, which is just a harder version of Night 5, we see the line, "He finally found the suit that will become his tomb, the last lingering piece of his soul. A good song never dies." With that, we get to watch William's springlock failure and onlook as he bleeds out. We're shown that Vincent, our character, was found dead inside of Freddy Fazbear's, and several news outlets labeled him as the reason the kids were murdered. I can't lie to you guys, I'm really eager to talk about this story, since after reading into it, I actually think it's really good, and it's clear that a bunch of effort was put into it. But like I said previously, I'm just not confident in my abilities to do it for myself. I've tossed around the idea of just reading the highly detailed explanation on the wiki that was written by somebody that was far more talented than I am, but I've decided against doing that since I don't want to come off as lazy and uninspired. And as much as I hate saying this, I'd highly recommend you go to the wiki and read up on it. It's actually such an amazingly well-written story, and I think it might just be one of the best takes on the official FNAF story I've ever seen. Overall, I think Tales of the Bunny Man is an enjoyable experience. The post-night minigames are interesting, and the story is fantastic and told in a way that isn't overtly confusing like most FNAF games like to be. However, I do think that the actual gameplay mechanics are pretty lackluster. Not only does each character not really have synergy with one another, this game is also just too easy. Throughout the nights, it never really feels like the characters are becoming more aggressive, which tends to lead to boring nights where you're just waiting for the much more enjoyable minigame sections.
What makes a horror game truly scary? Is it jump scares, atmosphere, build-up? Well, of course, all of these things together and more is what builds up a horror game to be something amazing. But I think if I had to choose one word to answer the question, what makes a horror game truly scary, my answer would be realism. In order for your game to be truly scary, I feel like the player has to be able to connect with your game on a personal level. And what better way to make that happen than to make the environment around them feel real? The game we'll be talking about today, I feel, pulled this off almost perfectly. A Five Nights at Freddy's fan game that was able to capture the real feel of an office, an environment, and realistic means of self-defense in a situation that seems so dire you'd think you'd never be able to make it out to tell the tale. The game we'll be covering today is Freddy's Reanimated, the most realistic FNAF game ever made. Reanimated does not begin like most FNAF games tend to. This game opens to a dark void. We're told that when we die, we will be brought back to this void and that we won't be remembered. However, if we are to be remembered, what is the name we'd like etched into our headstone? And it's here where we can actually choose a name for our character. Afterwards, we're booted into the menu where we can begin the game. As the game begins, we're given a pretty eerie opening cinematic, something pretty uncommon with Five Nights at Freddy's games. It serves to show how we found the job online on a listing site to work as a security guard for 5 days in an abandoned pizzeria. Fantastic! I know myself personally would never accept a job that I know for a fact won't even last a week, but hey, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. With that, we're thrown into the first night where I can talk about hands down one of my favorite parts about this game. Loading into the office, we're hit with something crazy. This game looks real. The office looks like an actual office, with objects placed around that actually look like they should be there, not just a random assortment of items like we typically see in FNAF games. And the sound design is amazing. This game looks real, it sounds real, and I think that's one of the big reasons why people love this game so much. It tries to feel real.
Watch for when he's closest. He can be tricked easily. What the fuck does that mean, bro? Holy shit. Oh my god. What the fuck? This looks sick.
Of course, like most FNAF games tend to do, we have a phone call on each night to listen to. Instead of the usual where the phone guy at least sounds somewhat like they know what they're doing, the phone guy in Reanimated sounds baked out of his fucking mind.
Speaking of which, the only reason we have a security guard job right now is because the place is being demolished soon. So we don't want any funny business going on at night.
He tells us the basics of our camera. Who cares? That's my job. What he does say that's actually of note is that the building we're in has been abandoned for over a decade. And the only reason we're watching over it now is because the building is about to be demolished. And for some reason, they're concerned about funny business going on because of that. I have no idea what funny business is supposed to mean. My first guess was people breaking in to steal something, but then I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. People could have been stealing from this place for the last 10 plus years. Why would they all of a sudden decide they needed to do this now? Maybe it means graffiti, but the place is being demolished, so who cares? This is such a weird thing to latch onto, but I just feel like it's strange to mention this now. And it does actually bring up a good question. Why would you hire someone to guard a building that won't exist in 5 days? But you never hired a guard for the past 10 years that it was abandoned. It almost makes you wonder if they were expecting something to happen. And maybe that's why they're demolishing it. Before I get into any of the characters, let's talk about the controls of this game and the 3 tools at our disposal. You can only look in 2 directions in this game, at your computer and at your door and window. Something super interesting about this door is that it is actually just a door, which is pretty scary in a game like this where your doors are mainly known as your only means of defense. You can pull the blinds of your window down if you want to, and when I first found that out, I was reasonably concerned as to why. I see this right here, and I know this game's about to be fucked. I know this game is about to be so fucked, dude. It's just a normal fucking door. Bro, these motherfuckers gonna open the shit out of that thing. And we'll get into why in just a minute. But first, I really want to talk about the cameras and why they serve to be one of the most difficult things to deal with in this entire game. Upon looking at the cameras, you'll realize there's no typical camera map and buttons. Instead, there's just arrows at the bottom of the cameras that you can click to move from one camera to the next, fairly slowly. This is brilliant in 2 ways. With the realism approach that this game is taking, looking at the surroundings, we can tell that this game takes place a pretty long time ago in 2013. We can tell this because of the confirm window at the beginning of the game being Windows 7 and the fact that the game tells us, but I just wanted to seem cool by pointing out that I knew what the Windows 7 UI was. Shut up. And yes, 2013 was a long time ago. I know for some of you it may not feel like it, but it was 12 years ago. That's older than some of my audience who, let's be honest, really shouldn't be watching my videos. Mom and dad, monitor your kids, fuckhead. Knowing this, and knowing that the game is aiming to be realistic, opting to use a slow, outdated system like this is genius, even if, yes, I think it's AIDS and very annoying. However, once we start talking about the way this game plays, I'll bring up why I think the way these cameras are set up is needed. Anyways, on to the reason why I think this is as annoying as it is. Mainly because it's not consistent in one way that I would expect it to be. There are 9 cameras in total to surf through. When you reach camera 9, if you press the forward arrow again, you will be sent back to camera 1. That makes sense. So, what do you think happens if you press the back arrow while on camera 1? If you said you go back to camera 9, you would be completely wrong because the back arrow doesn't even fucking exist on camera 1. Why is this the case? I have no idea. If it was consistent either way, this wouldn't bother me, but you can cycle in one direction and not the other. And yes, this is noticeable and it does matter. Now we can finally talk about the first threat this game throws at you. I'm sure you could have guessed who it is. That's right, it's Chica. I lied, it's Bonnie. Of course it's Bonnie. Surprisingly, each character in this game attacks you in a unique way. Even though we only have 3 tools, this game somehow manages to make each character vastly different from one another, and I think that's amazing. Bonnie's main goal is to sneak into your office. He will move around the cameras until he gets to your door. And when he gets to your door, be ready. Close that motherfucker! Oh my god. Dude, literally fuck that. Literally fuck that. The moment I saw this, I knew that this was getting a Dxtr White video. And even the people in my comments over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, knew that this game was getting a white video. I actually had another video lined up for this week, and I've chosen to postpone it so that I could talk about this game first, since I love it so much. It's moments like these that FNAF games need. Once Bonnie is at your window, all you have to do is hold down your blinds until you hear his big fat feet galloping away. Not an overtly difficult character to deal with, but really paves the way for what the rest of this game has to offer. Luckily for us, there's a post-night minigame section after each night that we get to talk about. But hold up, Dxtr. Don't you usually hate post-night minigames? Yeah, typically I do. However, this game's post-night minigames don't make me want to shove a porcupine in my asshole backwards. There's no repetitive 8-bit minigames, and again, what we're doing in these minigames still feels realistic. After completing the night, we get another call from the phone guy. He asks us before we head home to go into the storage room and find an old computer, which we can use to upload some old pictures and footage of the building to the cloud. He says he wants to upload some of the interesting stuff to his personal blog, which I'm sure violates some sort of contract, but who am I to care? I break the law all the time. For example, if I was in the UK, I'd probably be arrested on the spot because of the language I choose to use. Anyways, something I think is cool is that we actually get to walk into the back room. We don't just miraculously get placed there. This will become important later, by the way. After walking into the storage room, we can access the computer and start uploading files to the cloud. You'll notice that you can turn to the exit of the room. For now, it's unknown why. After waiting for ages for the upload to finish, we walk out of the storage room and finish out our shift, moving on to night 2. On night 2, we get another call from the phone guy, where we find out that our player is actually trying to do something about the fact that the characters are moving. Apparently, we sent an email to the phone guy explaining that we saw Bonnie moving. We called him the creepy rabbit, which seemed to frustrate the phone guy a little bit, to the point he corrected us on his name.
Oh yeah, and that creepy rabbit you were talking about, he has a name. It's Bonnie.
Sure, this could have just been playful, but I get the funny feeling it's not. The threat introduced on this night is Chica, arguably the least threatening character in this entire game. Chica will randomly wander around your cameras, and she has the chance to charge at your door from 2 of those cameras. Except the difference with Chica approaching your door is that closing the blinds will not stop her. She can attack on cameras 2 and camera 4. You can tell when she's going to attack based on the position she's standing in. On camera 2, she'll be very close to the camera, and in camera 4, she'll be on the very left side of the camera. When she is in either of these two positions, you will need to use the flash button on your cameras to flash said camera and scare her away. You may be wondering why there's a flash on these cameras. That's not very realistic, and Dxtr, you told me this whole game was realistic. And now hear me out. Usually I'd agree with you, but I want you to take that concern like a boomerang and launch it as far away from you as possible. Night 2's post-night minigame has us go back to the computer in the storage room to fiddle with the power system. Now this you can complain about because I have no idea what the hell that is supposed to mean. And actually doing the task doesn't really answer anything either. We are shown a series of sliders that we have to quite literally fiddle with. Apparently doing so will reset the power. How do you tell you've put the sliders in the correct spot? Well, you just have to do trial and error. Move one slider a single place, press reset, and if it turns red, change it again. This is very monotonous. If only there was something else on this night to cure my boredom. I don't want to look back. What did I tell you? It's moments like these that really make these FNAF games stand out. To any future FNAF devs, do cool shit. Your game does not have to be stupidly hard to be memorable. It just has to do cool things. And this is some of the coolest shit I've ever seen. While looking at the computer, Bonnie will slowly try to creep closer and closer to you. You will have to look back at him lest he shoot his Jeep juice all over your spine. You can actually watch him walk backwards while you look at him, almost like he knows you've noticed he's moved, and is attempting to readjust himself so you go back to looking away. What the fuck? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my fucking god! Did you see that shit? Motherfucker just crip walked back, he moonwalked. It's honestly some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game, and I love it. After completing this minigame and turning towards the door, you'll realize that Bonnie has gone away. Obviously getting bored of you because you're boring. So all we have to do now is walk out of the building. You want me to walk out that motherfucking door? You honestly want me to walk out that fucking door? I mean, I'll do it, but fuck. Oh my fucking god! This game is fucking awesome, by the way. But now it's time to move on to night 3. On night 3, the phone guy says he got another email from us because we told him that Chica was now moving too. He said that in case anyone else starts moving, we should use the flash, because they're probably not used to bright lights. Again, I find this weird coming from him. And come to think of it, why would any of the animatronics from any FNAF game be sensitive to light? They're always on stage where bright lights are beaming on them almost constantly. So I just find it odd how much the phone guy seems to want us to do this. He ends off the call by stating he wanted to tell us a story, but he's out of time. Maybe we'll hear that story another day. For now, let me tell you the story of Sparky the dog. You remember, the hoax character that was said to be in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 way back in the day? Yeah, for some reason he's in this game. And he's the threat introduced on night 3. His mechanics are simple, but really start to show how annoying this camera system is going to become. Occasionally, Sparky will bark. When he does, he will be teleported to a random camera. You will have to find which camera he's on and flash him. Am I a huge fan of this mechanic? No, not at all. And I'm really not a fan when I have to meticulously scrape through each camera one by one. Overall, so far, it's not going to be all too bad. Keep your eyes on Chica, find Sparky every once in a while, and occasionally hold the blinds for Bonnie. Simple sugar, not so bad. But trust me, it'll get bad pretty damn fast. After completing the shift, we get another call from the phone guy. He tells us the cameras have been acting strange, and that we should use the computer in the storage room to reset them. He also curiously mentions that he has remote access to the camera system. So that brings up the question, why the fuck are we even here? If someone else is able to watch the cameras in the safety of their own home, where there aren't a bunch of murder robots trying to butt fuck them? Who cares? Let's just finish our shift and head to the storage room.
I'll see you on the flip side.
I'll see you in the grave, asshole. So let me tell you a little something. Oh my fucking God! I love this game. I don't know if that was obvious or not. Entering the storage room is when we enter by far the most difficult minigame section in this entire game. I'm not kidding. We're tasked with literally just holding a button down on the PC. Once it charges all the way, we'll reset a camera and move on to the next one. However, when you let go, the bar will very quickly decrease. That may not sound so bad. It would only be bad if we had a certain purple distraction trying to blow our backs out now, wouldn't it? What the fuck? What? Bro, he's fast as shit. Bonnie is the sole reason why this minigame is so AIDS. Bonnie, for some reason, thought that today was the day he was going to take the Rock Lee ankle weights off and show us his true speed. Bonnie is so astronomically fast during this minigame, it's not even funny. 3, 2, 3. Oh my motherfucking God. Oh my fucking God. Oh my fucking God. Can I break his knees? You have maybe 2 seconds of time to look at the screen before he kills you, so you have to be fast. And what adds to the difficulty of this night, the hitbox of the progress bar you have to click and hold. Swiping your mouse back and forth to check on Bonnie, then moving back to the computer is insanity. And when you come back, you have to hold the position of your mouse on this tiny little progress bar and continue to hold. But you can only hold for maybe 1 second before you have to turn back around to Bonnie and wait for him to walk all the way back to the door. And keep in mind, the progress bar is decreasing every time you look away, so you're really just fucked. And once you complete a camera is when you notice you have to fix 3 more. And if you ever die to Bonnie, go back into them all over again. Fuck you. This minigame took me around 30 minutes to finally complete. It's unironically the second hardest canonical challenge in this game, and I would love to have to never do it again. Oh, but one more interesting detail about this minigame. The final camera you fix briefly shows Foxy in the camera. Oh boy, I hope that's not foreshadowing or something. After completing that hell, we don't have to almost get touched by any robots on our way out and are free to move on to night 4. The phone guy calls us and fucking rambles about some bullshit I don't care about. He says that there was an ancient civilization that archaeologists found, and those researchers were later haunted by handprints of the ancient civilization. Again, I really don't give a fuck. This is purely symbolic for the story of the game, which I'll talk about later. But this was the story he was itching to tell us. I would rather itch my balls than hear him talk about that again. The threat introduced on this night is Foxy. Spoiler alert, the camera was foreshadowing something. Foxy acts exactly how you think Foxy would act. You have to look at him to stall him, and if you don't, he'll run to your office. But as I'm sure you could have guessed, he too doesn't care about your door. Watching him will push him back, so you know, just make sure you're doing that. Something of note is how Foxy breaks the cycle you've been really trying to build up throughout the game, forcing you to develop a new one. Up until this point, watching Chica has probably been your main focus. But now with the character that demands even more attention, I'm sure you could figure out why Foxy will put a big wrench into your plans. Now you have to find a way to constantly watch Foxy and Chica. And lucky us, Foxy is on camera 6, several cameras away from Chica's attack cameras. This game knows what it's doing. Sure, it's frustrating, but it's also genius. In this post-night minigame, we're told we have to fix a ventilation problem. Phone guy tells us it's just turning a few knobs. The ventilation room is in a door right off of the storage room, so the storage room is where we go.
I don't see anyone yet. Hi, Bonnie. Were you expecting me to go there? Were you expecting to cut me off? Sorry, asshole. Not gonna happen.
Is that not horrifying? Bonnie is standing right next to the computer we've been going to every night. He's starting to remember our patterns, getting to the computer before we can in hopes that he could jump us. But lucky for us, The computer is not where we need to go this time. Entering into the ventilation room, we have 6 knobs in front of us and 2 large vents to our left and right. Pretty reminiscent of the office from Pizzeria Simulator. I wonder if anything is going to come through those vents to try and kill us. Silly little viewer. Of course there is. This minigame's threat is Foxy. Throughout the minigame, Foxy will make quiet sound cues in whichever vent he's about to attack from. When you hear him, all you have to do is turn to stare at him until he goes away. Meanwhile, you have to painfully slowly turn these 6 knobs, which will take a very long time. Because as you get closer to having them all finish, it seems that Foxy will attack you more and more frequently. After completing this task, we can leave with no other funny business taking place. Finally, we're left with one last night. One last thing standing in our way, and this game holds no punches in introducing it. Before you is something long forgotten. Something that was once loved and cherished, but now it lies broken. It is left abandoned. You know what becomes of something long forgotten. It dies a second death. It grows cold. It is unmoving. But what if some things don't wish to be forgotten? Do you know what happens when something refuses to be forgotten? It becomes angry. Anger is eternal. Anger grows, it festers, it burns, it writhes, and then it finally happens. It is given new life. It returns to us. It haunts us. However, it doesn't return as it once was. It returns as something else, something unrecognizable. Through its anger, it is reanimated. And with that, we're given one final message. The flash slows him down. Godspeed. When I first read that message, it gave me chills for some reason. It's like just by reading that, I knew what I was about to experience. Absolute agony. We get another call from the phone guy. He explains his reasoning for why he thinks the robots are alive. He thinks they're angry that they've been forgotten about and left abandoned for years, and he couldn't be more right. Night 5 introduces Freddy. Holy fucking shit, Freddy. Freddy is by far the most dangerous character in this entire game. When Freddy moves forward, he will never move backwards. And once he gets to your office, it's over for you. Yo, get the fuck away from that fucking door! You get the fuck away from that door! What? Oh, fuck, dude. Freddy is a dick. Raps. How do you stall Freddy? By using the flash, of course. When you flash Freddy, he will cover his eyes. Something interesting to note is that Freddy is the only character to be animated on the cameras. Such a small detail, but a detail I think is really cool. If you really want to make sure Freddy doesn't move, you'll have to time his intervals, since they don't vary, and make sure you're onto his camera and flash him at quite literally every single opportunity. You don't have much time to waste, as Freddy is fast. Really fucking fast. I don't quite have the vocabulary necessary to describe how intense this night really is. And if you get bad Sparky spawns like I often did, you could easily spend hours on this night. I was lucky enough to only have it take me a single hour. But if you manage to control your nerves long enough to complete this night, we will have one final minigame to talk about. After completion, we get one final call from the phone guy. He very ominously tells us to enter the dining room. He says he wants to show us something. Upon entering the dining room, we're greeted by all 5 animatronics staring back at us. The camera to the dining room flashes, and we hear the phone guy, named Ralph, explain that the reason it flashes is so that you can take a screenshot of the camera. Ow! Oh! Fuck! See? That's why I told you to make it a boomerang. Ralph then used that image to post on his blog. He's been using these camera images for his blog all week, and we were the bait. One last goodbye is said, and the restaurant goes quiet. The gameplay of Freddy's Reanimated is incredible. There's no doubting that. This game, of course, has a custom night with 3 additional unlockable characters. The first of which being Bon Bon, who's actually a reference to the game Freddy's Web Adventure. Pretty cool. Occasionally, he will appear on your cameras. If you don't click him fast enough, he will disable all of them for the remainder of the night. The next character you can unlock is called the Hawk. He acts as a Phantom Chica-like character. He will periodically appear on the cameras, blocking the view, and if you don't turn away from him, he will kill you. Pretty simple, but in a game where the cameras are super important, this guy can be a big pain in the ass. Finally, the last character you can unlock is Sienna, by far the most cancerous of the Custom Night 3. She will occasionally block the clock next to your door, which somehow prevents time from passing. This is a Custom Night character that can drop the realism at this point. All you have to do is click her nose and she will go away and the time will continue to pass. Altogether, completing a Custom Night with these 3 additional characters is a torture I would never want to put myself through. But shout out to Dark Ryun, who was able to pull it off, and whose footage you're seeing right now. I should mention that the Custom Night does have a secret ending, but I'll bring it up when I talk about the story of this game, which, you know, we'll do right now. The story of Freddy's Reanimated is honestly one of the most surprisingly thoughtful pieces of writing I've ever seen in a FNAF fan game. It's not about murder or purple men or endless timelines that make my brain feel like fucking mashed potatoes. It's about being forgotten, and about what happens when something that used to bring people joy is left to rot and fade away. The entire game is built on this theme: nostalgia, decay, and the quiet horror of being erased from memory. Freddy's Reanimated takes place inside Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, a restaurant that's already dead by the time we get there. It used to be loved. Kids laughed, parents smiled, the animatronics performed, and everything was fine. Until it wasn't. Over time, the crowd stopped coming. The lights dimmed, the laughter stopped. The building was abandoned and left to gather dust for over a decade. No massacres, no missing children, just nothing. The kind of death most things really suffer. When the game starts, we're told the place is finally being demolished, and Ralph, the manager, hires a night guard to keep an eye on the place for the last few days. That's us. But before us, there was another guard, Mike Schmidt. Yeah, that Mike Schmidt. He worked one night, just one, and didn't make it out. In the demo of this game, we actually see what happened. Mike survives until 6 a.m. The power cuts, and Freddy himself storms into the office and literally bites his head off. No mystery, no cover-up. It's brutal. It's direct, and it sets the tone for everything that follows. When Ralph brings us in months later, he acts like none of that ever happened. He's casual, a little too calm, and gives us these half-baked instructions that sound like he's either high out of his mind or hiding something. He keeps asking us to do these little tasks: fix the power, upload old files, check the cameras, all while brushing off the fact that the animatronics are moving. Every night, our character emails Ralph describing what they saw, and every night Ralph dances around the truth. He never says, "You're wrong," but he never says, "You're right" either. It's like he knows what's going on, but refuses to say it out loud. Then, finally, on the last night, Ralph tells us a story. The story he's been dying to share. He says that back in the 1940s, archaeologists discovered a cave covered in human handprints. The people who found it were haunted by those same handprints for the rest of their lives. Like the dead were reaching out just to remind them they were still there. And Ralph thinks the same thing is happening to Freddy's. He believes the animatronics are moving because they refuse to be forgotten. That after sitting abandoned for over a decade, their anger, this pure, desperate rage, literally reanimated them. Not out of vengeance, not because of possession, but because of memory. Because they were once loved and then left behind. It's such a fascinating take. The idea that these animatronics aren't evil, they're afraid. Afraid of fading away. It's one of the first FNAF fan games I've seen that makes you feel sorry for the monsters chasing you. They're not killing you because they want to, they're killing you because they don't want to disappear. After you survive the final night, Ralph asks you to head into the dining room.
He says he wants to show you something. When you enter, all 5 animatronics are standing there, waiting for you. It's one of the eeriest visuals in the entire game. Completely still, completely silent. Ralph activates the camera flash, and the screen freezes in a burst of light. Then he says,
I finally figured out what the flash button does. It lights up the room so that you can take a screenshot of the camera you're looking at. I finally have more recent images for my blog.
And that's when it hits you. The whole time, we weren't protecting the building, we were the bait. Ralph was using us to get the footage and screenshots he wanted for his personal blog, to turn the remains of this haunted restaurant into online content, the same way we, as players, chase nostalgia. Ralph chases it too. He's obsessed with documenting something that's supposed to be gone. After everything, the building is demolished. Ralph's posts about it online, sparking renewed interest in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. People remember it again. The animatronics, those same restless spirits that didn't want to be forgotten, finally get what they wanted. They are remembered. And then they rest. The player gets their paycheck. The story ends not with a scream, but with silence. It's such a powerful way to close things out. Freddy's Reanimated isn't about surviving animatronics. It's about the fear of being erased. It's about what happens when the world moves on and leaves you behind. Even the custom night ending reflects that idea. Mike Schmidt's death is written off as a bear attack. Just a tiny headline, nothing more. And Freddy Fazbear himself, lying in the rubble, surrounded by everything that used to be alive, now just forgotten scraps of metal. For a game that's meant to be realistic, it's ironic that the story is one of the most human I've ever seen in this genre. Freddy's Reanimated isn't just the most realistic FNAF game ever made, it's one of the most real stories the community has ever told. Would you like to hear one last interesting piece of information I have to share? There is a secret in this game up until this point. As far as I'm aware, nobody has ever found it, and I can guarantee you've never seen it before. A secret so rare that the chances of finding it exceed luck that no human has ever had. And I want to thank City, the author of the FNAF fan game wiki, for providing me with this information and allowing me to share it with you guys. We know that Michael got bitten and killed by Freddy, but did you know you can actually see Michael's corpse inside of the game? You just have to be incredibly lucky. To start, you must have already beaten the main game. No custom night completion is necessary. Then you have to restart the game from night 1. Before completing night 3, you will have to die at least 5 times. Then, upon beating night 3, when entering the hallway, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance to see the corpse. Slight gore warning, by the way. This is probably the most realistic looking gore I've ever seen in a FNAF game. If you can pull all of that off and get more lucky than any human on Earth, this is what you will see in the hallway. Truly some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. But there you have it. That's everything as far as I'm aware that Freddy's Reanimated has to offer. Overall, this game is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had since starting this channel. I don't think this game is nearly my favorite. I think I like Junior's and Banshee just a little bit more, but it's definitely close. The atmosphere, the sound design, the game design are all borderline perfect works of art. The original FNAF lore, arguably one of the most confusing and frustrating pieces of media ever created, with several retcons, horrendous retellings, frustrating timeline and universe splits, and so many other headaches. Five Nights at Freddy's definitely has a reputation for pretty terrible storytelling, but that's where fan-made remix can come into play. Today, we'll be covering a game called Five Nights at Freddy's Rewritten 87, a remake of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is undoubtedly the FNAF game that started the trend of, let's just make the lore of our game as confusing as possible. FNAF Rewritten serves to retell the same story that FNAF 2 did, but in a more concise and enjoyable way, while also making the core gameplay loop of the game better than the original dumpster fire that was FNAF 2 and its gameplay loop. I hope you're excited, because we've got a lot to talk about today. So grab a pet,
grab some snacks, and join me today as we dive into the creatively amazing world of FNAF Rewritten 87. FNAF Rewritten 87 opens with a playable cutscene. We see Spring Bonnie standing in front of us. He calls us Gabriel, the child in the Freddy suit, and tells us to follow him. As we walk through the opening credits, we stumble upon a door. We, very creepily, I will add, see Spring Bonnie open the door, only to see Freddy sitting on the table. Oh my god. Walking inside, we get snatched up and stuffed inside of the suit. Who could have seen that one coming? Upon waking up, surprisingly not dead, or actually, who knows, maybe we are actually dead and we're just seeing through our soul at this point, we watch as Freddy and the other characters perform on stage, knowing that there is at least one dead child in one of them. However, I think we can infer that there are probably children inside of Bonnie and Chica as well. We learn about the restaurant shutting down and being bought by a bigger company, only for the whole franchise to be remodeled with safety in mind. Afterwards, we're dropped straight into night one. However, it doesn't begin in the way that most FNAF games begin. This time around, we actually start in a 3D environment, being able to walk around and explore the building to our heart's desires. Except that's a fucking lie because we can't go where Mangle and the puppet are. What? Oh my fucking god. And we can't go into the back rooms. Curiously enough, the only two places I really wanted to go, so that was a bit of a bummer. Hearing the phone ringing, we walk into the back office and really begin the night. Phone guy gives us the typical boring speech nobody really cares about. Let's start talking about what the game changes from the original. I'm sure you could already guess, but this game's building is set up a lot differently than the original. To start, let's talk about the kitchen. The kitchen replaces one of the party rooms from the original, and actually there are plenty of employees-only areas throughout the building that connect various areas. For example, using employee-only hallways, you can walk from the kitchen to the back room, which, yes, you still cannot enter from this angle either. I know, disappointing. These new locations aren't necessarily important per se, but I do think that they're a very nice touch and serve to make this game feel reminiscent of FNAF 2 without just being a direct copy of it, and I like that. The tools at our disposal, however, are exactly the same. Flashlight, cameras, Freddy mask. However, the flashlight does work a bit differently from the original, but I'll explain that more once we start talking about a certain fat bastard. So, who are the threats introduced on this night? Well, to start, of course, we have Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica, and Toy Freddy. Okay, so this game definitely lays a lot on you. Not that that's a bad thing. If anything, it's a good thing because it gives me more to talk and complain about in this video and gives you guys a longer video because of that. Let's start with Toy Bonnie, the worst character to ever walk the face of the earth. Toy Bonnie does exactly what he does in the original. He'll make his way through the building and into your right vent. Where do you think you're going? Oh my fucking god, dude. Once you see him in your office, put the Freddy mask on, and you'll get to watch him crip walk into your office. The animations in this game, by the way, are really awesome, so get used to it. Toy Chica, while being the hottest character I've ever seen in my life, is pretty much the same as she is in the original. She struts around, my jaw drops like a cartoon character, and my eyes pop out whenever I see her, and my tongue comically falls to the floor, and she makes her way to your left vent. Oh my god, come here, bro. However, before she does, you can see her in the hallway, and literally watch her fent walk into the party room. Seriously, look at the way she initially bends backwards to start walking. That's disgusting. Anyways, once you see her in your vent, put the Freddy mask on. However, unlike the original where she just disappears, much like FNAF 2 Reimagined, Chica does actually come out of the vent like Toy Bonnie and stares into your eyes for a bit. While most people would just wait for her to leave, I actually toss around the thought of taking the mask off and allowing her to start digging in me. I could talk about my attraction to Toy Chica for days on end, but let's move on to talking about the final threat this night introduces, Toy Freddy. The fat ass, whale ass, elephant ass, hippopotamus ass, dump truck ass, island in the ocean ass, massive ass, gargantuan ass, obese ass, folds on folds ass, looking fat ass, fucking fat ass robot. Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy, while Toy Freddy, while morbidly obese if you weren't aware, is actually the first character in this game to do something completely different from the original, which I actually think is really great. A problem I have with FNAF 2 is the amount of characters that all do the same thing. While you could argue that Withered Freddy is supposed to be the main character for FNAF 2, given the fact his face is on the icon, I actually think Toy Freddy is a better fit for the main character, just given the environment the game takes place in and the overall theming of the game. And to have your main character do something as boring as Toy Freddy does, aka just walk through the hall and appear in your office, it just feels so boring and lazy. Toy Freddy in this game is actually just an asshole. If you look on your camera map, you will see 4 cameras that have a thick green ring around them. These cameras each have a breaker box inside of them. Occasionally, Toy Freddy will laugh, signifying that he's about to do something devious like putting his hand in the cookie jar, only to find out that it's empty because his sausage finger ass already put his hand in the cookie jar 36 other times today. When you hear him laugh, he'll appear next to any one of these 4 breaker boxes. You'll have to quickly find which one he appeared at and flash your camera light at him and he'll go away. He's afraid of the light, which would make sense given his build. I'm willing to bet he's the type of guy to sit in the dark at his computer all day playing a World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Valorant, or something really niche like EverQuest. So light being his weakness makes total sense. Also, we know this fat ass plays games all day and does nothing else because playing a video game is literally his mechanic in Ultimate Custom Night. This is canon, guys. He's a fat piece of shit. Scott confirmed it. He actually called me last week to tell me, quote, "Hey yo dog, Toy Freddy is a fat piece of shit, you feel me?" And I was like, fuck yeah dog, I feel you. Anyways, moving on to the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to night 2. The way the camera in this office controls. There's no other real way to describe it except fucking awful. It just feels really bad and awkward to control. It lags behind your mouse, which I'm pretty sure was intentional, but it just feels off. I was trying to click Toy Freddy's nose in my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, and I just literally couldn't get the camera to stop freaking the fuck out while I was trying to do so. On top of that, there's this weird stutter it has when you go near the vents. You'll go to click on a vent to shine your light at it, but before you can, for no reason the camera will just stutter and move even more, even if your mouse isn't moving. It's goofy. I know I nitpick a lot in these videos, but I think controls are something that should be nitpicked. That needs to be nailed. Remember how I said that was the last thing I wanted to talk about before moving on to night 2? Well, I lied. There's actually 2 more things I want to mention. First, I forgot to say the music box is still a thing. And I'm not gonna harp on it too much. You guys know how I feel about music boxes. AIDS, poop, and balls. There. The other thing I want to mention is what happens after you beat night 1. You'll get tossed back into the POV of Gabriel standing on stage as Bonnie and Chica perform around you.
Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, hi. Eventually, they stop performing and just stare at you, which is very uncomfortable, especially Chica. Chica's model in this game is like really fucking gross and uncomfortable to look at, so I didn't like that too much. It looks like she doesn't brush her teeth for a living. Eventually, the puppet appears in front of us, the curtains close, and we're booted into night 2. Night 2 starts by allowing you to walk around the building yet again. However, this time, we're actually allowed to go inside the arcade room. And of course, if you couldn't take a guess, there is an arcade machine that we're able to play. In this minigame, we play as a fucking drill car, which is pretty riz. We have to drive around and pop several balloons across the map. After we're done, an exit door will appear and we can end the minigame. However, if you know anything about FNAF minigames, then you'd know there has to be a secret in here somewhere. And a secret there is. After collecting all the balloons, if instead of going into the exit door you continue, you'll find a glitched wall. Driving into it will put you into a normal car. After a bit of driving, we stumble across one of the pizzerias with a crying child outside. Getting out of the car, you'll notice we're playing as Afton. We walk up to the child and presumably murder it, only for the puppet to appear in the reflection of the game, telling us that if we go deeper, it will stop us. Whatever that means. With that, another exit door appears and we're free to leave and continue the night as usual. After that, there's nothing more to do than walk into the office and talk about what new threats this night introduces. And the first threat we'll talk about is Withered Foxy. Nothing much interesting to say about this guy. He works in the exact same way as the original.
He'll appear in your hallway every now and then, and all you have to do is flash him a bunch and he'll go away. One thing I do want to mention about him and why I actually like him in this game more than the original is because you flash him with your mouse, which means my poor little control key won't fucking explode. And actually, because you have to use your mouse to flash Foxy, you can actually spam the hallway a lot faster and make him leave sooner. So that's pretty great. The other threat introduced on this night is Mangle, who is probably the most interesting character we've seen so far and is probably the most interesting character in the entire game. Mangle's goal is to get into your office through the main hallway. She doesn't enter the right vent like in the original. Mangle is a very stressful character to deal with. Let me explain why. Once Mangle enters your office, she'll go to your ceiling, but this does not mean she's attacking you yet. While she's on your ceiling, very loud gurgling sounds will be heard, and the TV monitors in your office will start flashing static, Mangle, and the puppet, interestingly enough. After a bit of this, Mangle will drop her head down from the ceiling. At this time, you must put your mask on. Mangle will stay with her head down for a very long time, like much longer than you think she would. Eventually, she'll pull her head back up, but the attack isn't over quite yet. The screens will start to go all nutty again, and during this time, you're allowed to check on things you need to check on, like the music box, Toy Freddy, and Withered Foxy. Soon after, Mangle will drop her head down a second time, requiring you to put the mask on again. After she leaves for the second time, she will finally leave your office, and her attack is finally over. Mangle is easily one of, if not the most stressful character to deal with in this entire game. And one of the main reasons I feel this way is because of her synergy with Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy makes a laughing sound cue when he's about to fuck you with your fuse box. Mangle is so goddamn cock-sucking loud that she will most likely drown out his laugh unless you're paying incredibly close attention.
So I'm not gonna die just because she's in here. That was Toy Freddy. She synergizes with Toy Freddy. She's loud as shit and drowns him out.
But overall, if you can learn her timings, you should be just fine. And in all honesty, from what I noticed, she is pretty forgiving with how much time she gives you to put the mask on after she drops her head. Night 3 time already? Why hello. What goes on tonight? Well, the night starts just like night 2. We can take a walk through the arcade and play another game, except this time around the game in question is fucking dog shit and I didn't beat it because it's bullshit. In it, you play as Bonnie collecting balloons. Who cares about that part? At a certain distance into the sky, you'll see the ceiling is glitching. Jumping into it will turn you into Spring Bonnie and the game gets all dark. Ooh, scary. In this section of the game, you need to grab the 5 kids and put them into what I'm going to assume is the back room where they were killed. You have to do it one at a time, which really just makes my dick hurt, but whatever. Every time you collect a child, shadow Bonnies will appear around the map for you to dodge. If you touch them, the floor will disappear and you'll have to climb back up. After you collect 4 kids, however, is when this game gets bullshit. Another shadow Bonnie will spawn. However, this one looks way fucking creepier and will actually follow you. The funny part? Well, this shadow Bonnie is faster than you in every way and will literally camp your body, making it borderline impossible to make any progress. Seriously, look at what's happening on screen right now and tell me if this looks like any fun at all. Spoiler alert, it's not. I gave up because I was on the verge of sticking a pencil down my urethra and snapping it in half. However, once you deliver the last kid, an exit door will appear, finishing out the minigame. Afterwards, all you have to do is walk to the office and the night section can begin. Phone Guy talks about how the police may have a lead on a missing children's incident. Who cares? I'm glad they're dead. And he also mentions that the animatronics are getting more aggressive. That part, I do care about. So let's talk about the 2 new threats this night introduces. Withered Bonnie is introduced on this night, and he's one of the coolest characters in the entire game. Not because of what he actually does, he's just a super menacing character and I think that's really cool. Withered Bonnie will attack you through the hall rather than the vent like in the original. The animation is insane, get ready for this. When he's in your hall, he will step out in front of your doorway and stare at you. This is easily one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. Then after a bit of time, he'll step into your office and all you have to do is put the mask on until he goes away. Fucking terrifying. I love it. The other character introduced on this night is my favorite official FNAF animatronic ever designed, Withered Chica. She does, literally, the exact same thing as Withered Bonnie, which I do feel is a little lazy. However, she's so fucking cool and easily the creepiest character in this entire game. Seriously, Look at this animation when she's in your office and tell me that's not the creepiest thing you've ever seen. God, I love it so much. But those are the only 2 characters introduced on this night. So far, I do think night 3 is the most boring in terms of what happens. Yes, Mangle is still stressful with Toy Freddy, and I did get the craziest attack combo of all fucking time.
You didn't see me.
Oh my God. Bitches at every angle. I'm getting railed from every angle. What is this? Hi.
You are the most terrifying character in this fucking game. Holy shit. That's badass, dude. Oh my God, and look who's still fucking here.
But in terms of what Night 3 actually brings to the table, I do feel it is a bit lackluster. I know that Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica do the same thing, but at least in a game like FNAF 2 Reimagined, while Bonnie and Chica variants did do the same thing, at least the Wizards and the toys attacked differently from each other. The only thing that's different between the variants this time around is where they come from to get into your office. Night 4. Fuck this. Terrible character introduction. Let's just jump right into it. To begin, of course, we walk through the arcade and play yet another minigame. That is, unless you're me. Since I didn't complete the bullshit minigame from Night 3, I couldn't play the minigame on Night 4. Had I known that was going to be the case, I would have forced myself to beat Night 3's minigame. But fuck me, I guess I'm locked out of all the minigames for the rest of my playthrough. But what actually happens in this minigame? Well, I'm honestly glad I never did play this minigame because it appears to be just as frustrating as the last. In it, you play as who I think is Mangle. You're tasked with finding 5 balloon boys around the map. Afterwards, you move on to the next round and holy shit! It says there's 20 fucking rounds. I think I'm gonna shoot myself. Luckily for us, actually collecting the balloon boys isn't the real objective. Occasionally, a crying child will appear from the ground, and these are the real characters you want to collect. After collecting your first one, a Shadow Bonnie will appear on the map. Touching one will cause the timer at the top of the screen to decrease very quickly, so don't touch them. However, it appears that a crying child spawning only has a small chance to happen every time the map loads, so using them to lose faster to get the level to respawn might actually be an alright strategy for collecting all the kids. Eventually, after collecting a few, as I'm sure you could have already guessed, Spring Dick appears and moves at light speed and camps your body for the rest of the fucking minigame, constantly draining your time at a rate faster than your mom drains all the nutrients out of the buffet line. Once you finally collect all of the crying children, the next level will show all the heads of the characters with missing children stuffed inside of them, and an exit door will appear. Something I noticed specifically about the Golden Freddy head is just how hard it is to see in comparison to the other masks. I'm sure this has some sort of symbolism, but I'm just playing the game, bro. You figure it out. Anyways, after touching the exit door, you walk to the office and it's time for the night section to begin. This night introduces 2 new threats. Let's start with the threat that is so annoying you'll want to light your PC on fire and then throw it in a river. Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy has somehow been made even more annoying than in the original. Except not annoying as in his mechanics, that's actually easier than the original. I mean, his laugh is so much fucking worse. The way he works is pretty simple. He'll attack through either of your vents. Instead of putting the mask on like in the original, you'll instead have to spam flash your light at him. Do that enough and he'll eventually literally run away like a little baby pissed diarrhea boy. Obviously, if you don't, he jumps into your office, steals your shit, and Foxy will fuck you since you won't be able to flash him. The other character introduced on this night is Withered Freddy. What does he do? Well, let me tell you, I have no fucking idea. What do you mean you have no idea, Dexter? Didn't you play the game? Yes, I did. However, this series and this Dxtr White video specifically, I wanted to try something a little different in the video creation process. Typically, after I finish recording a black series, if I think the game was worthy of a white video, I'll put it on my white list. Depending on how much I either liked or disliked the game, will determine how high up on the list the game will go. And when it comes time to script a Dxtr White video, I choose the video at the top of the list and write the entire script in one sitting. I feel this leads to the beginnings of my scripts being really hard to get into, and I feel that it also makes the amount of energy I have near the end of the script drop off. So I thought for this game I'd try something new. After recording each Dxtr Black video on this game, I would write the script specifically for that section. That way, I'm not writing a lot in one sitting, and I get a fresh reset every day, which I've noticed has been making me a lot happier with the script in general.
However, this does bring up an interesting issue that I've only noticed now while writing and talking about Night 4. While yes, Withered Freddy was introduced, for some reason, he literally never attacked me once throughout the entire night. So I quite literally have no idea what he does, and I can't really talk about it. So, this is a little awkward. I'm gonna consult the wiki real quick. Just give me a second. Let me just, 87, okay, and Night 4, okay, here we go. Let me just, we'll go to the side of the hallway, on that, well, fuck. I really thought he was gonna do something cool, but no. He does the exact same thing as Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica. Just walks to your hall and eventually goes into your office where you have to put the mask on. Damn it, I really thought they'd do something interesting with this guy, and it's honestly really disappointing that they didn't. I had Withered Freddy appear in my hall multiple times throughout my Night 4 playthrough. However, never once did he attempt to step into my office. If I had to guess why, I'd say it's probably because when he was in the hallway, every other character at the same time decided to be there or be in my office. Oh my god, fucking party in the hallway! Party in the hallway! Let's just fucking not do this. Party in the fucking office! Hello! Hello, everybody at the same fucking time. Hi, guys. Fuck off. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We're at Night 5 already? What a nice, totally calm and non-stressful ride it's been so far, right? Yeah, no, not really. But let's continue. To start, of course, we have another minigame to talk about, and this one is by far the most frustrating and annoying one yet. In it, we play as the puppet, tasked with giving gifts and then giving life, just like the original. However, unlike the original, where the minigame was quick and easy, this minigame is long and painful. You can see several balloons going from side to side across the screen. You can move along the top of the screen as well, and you're supposed to drop down on the crying children to give them their gift. However, you can't touch the balloons or the balloon boys at the bottom of the screen, or you will be reset to the top. Can you see where this is going? This minigame relies on luck, and you just fucking waiting for a good opening to drop down. And get this, as it goes on, it gets even worse. Every time you get a gift, a Shadow Bonnie will appear in the balloons. These Shadow Bonnies will move around and literally push the fucking balloons when they touch them, making the waiting for timings part even more fucking annoying. And you have plenty of them in this game. This game can take several minutes depending on your luck. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if it took someone over 15 minutes to complete this bullshit. After giving the gift to the last kid, the screen goes dark and we're told to give life, putting the character masks on each of the children, with the puppet eerily watching in the background. After giving life, the puppet goes on a 2-decade rant. She gets upset that we keep playing these games, learning what happened to the children, even at its attempts to stop us. She says she has to kill us because apparently us knowing will make them truly die. She says this because obviously she gave them life in the forms of the animatronics. But I'd argue to say that this is a fate even worse than death, Miss fucking Puppet. And I'm willing to bet that freeing the kids and letting them actually die is miles better than having them live in the place where they fucking died for the rest of eternity. So hop off my dick. Before we jump into the next section, there's something I want to mention that I found while roaming around this night. Well, actually 3 things. The first is just how many fucking puppet plushies have been accumulating around the building. Like, there are literally so many of them. The next thing I want to mention is that it was this night that I found you can knock Balloon Boy over, which has probably now become my favorite part of this game. Oh my god, I can knock his stupid ass over. And finally, the real big thing I wanted to talk about is something I found in one of the party rooms. Please, can someone tell me, what the fuck is this thing? There's an endoskeleton you can find in one of the party rooms. I don't know if it's here every night or just this one since I never checked, but tell me, who the fuck is this supposed to be? It never moves and you can't interact with it, but I just thought I'd point this out in case anybody can tell me what the hell this thing is. Anyways, how about we talk about the actual night section now? There's not much to talk about in terms of new threats, but there is something pretty interesting. At the end of the puppet's monologue, she said that tonight would be different than the nights before.
She said that we've done a good job stopping her, but not tonight. The puppet gains a new form of attack on this night, and it is so fucking annoying. Remember all those shadow Bonnies that are life-ruining from the minigames? Yeah? Well, now they're in the night segments. Have fun, asshole! They show up on your cameras. Several of them. Like, a fuck ton of them will appear. They will block your camera buttons, your flashlight button, and your music box wind button. When you click on one of them, they will go away. But if there's even one of them just barely touching the button with their head, their foot, their hand, even just gently plopping the tip of their dick right on top of one of your buttons, you won't be able to interact with it until you get rid of them. And you better believe that when you hear Toy Freddy's fat ass laugh, your blood pressure is gonna spike to 12K as you try to remove all these little fucking shadow bitches from the camera.
Oh my god.
But that really is the only new thing added to this night. Of course, this night is much harder than night 4, and yes, it's still just as overwhelming with characters constantly jumping all over your shit and grinding in your office constantly throughout the entire night. Thank you for asking. Night 6 time! Holy fucking shit, is there a lot to talk about here. I was honestly expecting this video to be close to 20 minutes, but nope. We're going way over today. So, it was at this moment I learned that in order to play Night 6, I had to beat all the minigames from the previous nights. Fuck me. So, I did that, and now here we are. This night begins with a cutscene, talking about what I can only assume to be the bite of 87. Or the bite of 83? I think this one is 83, I'm pretty sure. I literally don't know the FNAF lore at all, it's so fucking awful. In this cutscene, we play as Jeremy Fitzgerald, going into a play area to retrieve a Freddy plushie. Of course, this play area is where Mangle is kept, and it's at this moment we notice that Mangle has the toy in her mouth. Attempting to go get it, she crawls away into the slide. Following behind her, she goes down the slide and we lose sight of her, only to see that she's placed the toy in a very convenient spot.
Ooh, convenient.
Going to grab the toy, Mangle swoops down on us like a pedophile in the park and bites the shit out of us, killing us instantly. Jeremy is then fished up by Old Man Consequences. He explains how people who have died unfairly don't get reeled up to the surface and are forced to stay underneath the ocean until they get peace. Even though we as Jeremy died unfairly, he explains that he made an exception for us because we died due to the supernatural. He also knows that we haven't finished what we started. This conversation with him goes on for a very long time, so let's just skip to the interesting part. We come back to the building. Of course, we're playing as Michael, not Jeremy. Just wanted to make that clear in case anyone was confused as to what was going on. We are indeed Michael Afton in this game. We enter through the back of the building through a vent and go to walk back to the office. However, before we do that, I want to point out that for some reason, Toy Freddy is not on stage and is instead standing in the same party room we saw that weird endoskeleton in previously. Oh, and of course, there's yet another minigame to play. Heading into the arcade, we can begin. This time we play as Chica and we have to bring a bunch of cupcakes to a table. You'll notice that this time around, there is a lack of Shadow Bonnies. That is, until you collect all the cupcakes. If you head up afterwards, you'll see the stick figure Jeremy pointing you towards a wall. Walking into it, we get teleported to a room with several platforms. It's in this room where the big bitch Shadow Bonnie is present. If he touches you, you get teleported back to the cupcake table and will have to come back. In this big platform room, there are characters from every other minigame you've seen so far, retrieving one of the missing children from each, giving them gifts, and then finally giving them life once more. The puppet tells us we need to stay out of its way, and an exit door appears for us to leave. Candy Cadet thought it'd be a great idea to block my fucking path to the office. He speaks to us, but it almost seems as though the puppet is speaking to us through him, given exactly what he says to us.
Congratulations, Michael.
Oh, hey, Candy.
You had won a free story. No coins required.
Why do you know my name? Hey, Candy Cadet.
Michael, you should have never come back.
Oh.
I told you to leave us alone.
Oh, is that the fucking marionette?
I'm happy. We are all happy. Do not try to take them away.
You're not all
Jeremy
happy.
tried. You do not want to be like Jeremy. Right, Michael?
Oh yeah, Jeremy got bit.
If you answer that phone, if you listen to Jeremy, I will have to stop you. I know there is good in you. I know you are sorry. Please leave.
Oh, okay. You can't stop me, bro.
After this, we find a different way to the office, and the night begins. Nothing new to talk about here, it's just a harder version of Night 5. That is, until we see a certain shadow rabbit in our cameras and the building goes dark. The lights come back on, and the phone begins to ring. Every camera has too many balloons on it, and our Freddy mask has been replaced by a foxy one. There's no better way for me to explain to you what happens next. It's much better if you just watch for yourself.
Michael, I know you're in it. Know what you've done, Michael. Brother is dead, Michael. You killed him. What were you even doing? You really think this is that much? Like the one sick with nothing insulting enough. My son is dead, Michael. People pity you. And those who don't pity me are blaming me. Have to go to the high priest. The little face of my restaurant. So many are going to think I failed. They'll think something's broken or wrong with my work. His machine killed him. Did he not prioritize safety? I'm sorry! I didn't account for my idiot son shoving his little brother down its mouth! I have to my parents. I need people to know this was your horseplay that caused this. Was no fault of mine. You are almost an adult. You deserve to take full accountability for this. All of it. You know, I'll never let go of this, Michael. You've ruined my life. I'm going to tear yours apart.
So, Michael has an episode, and Mangle is able to slip into the office and attack him. But hold up. What if I told you Mangle didn't get him? Michael comes to. He survived by jumping into one of the vents. Now it's time for us to make our grand escape. We crawl through the vents into the kitchen where we see withered Chica. Fucking terrifying, by the way. Sneaking around her, we enter the hallway and a chase with Withered Freddy begins, Withered Bonnie following close behind as well. We run through the back room, interestingly seeing that weird endoskeleton from before, but we don't really have time to focus on that. We close the door to the back room, but it's not long before Withered Foxy starts to chase us as well. Getting into the main party room, a sign falls and blocks Foxy from being able to get us. We try to run to the exit, only for two balloon boys to block the way. Before we can think of what to do, the puppet jumps out of her box and yet another chase occurs. Choosing to run to the emergency exit, Toy Freddy blocks our path. Running back into the main hallways, Toy Bonnie and Chica spot us and the chase continues. Running down the hall, Mangle falls from the ceiling as we make a sharp left into the arcade room. Exiting, Toy Freddy greets us on the other side and we make it to the exit. Fenced off, we seemingly have nowhere to go. Hearing the puppet pounding on the door behind us, we jump behind some pizza boxes to hide. As the puppet breaks her way outside, the sound of police sirens can be heard as the puppet cowers and hides before she can be seen. We look down at the logbook we took, previously owned by Jeremy, and Five Nights at Freddy's Rewritten 87 comes to a close. While yes, this is where the main story ends, there's still something super interesting I want to talk about, and that is this game's extras menu, which actually isn't even a menu. It's basically just a 3D environment you can roam around and explore. The reason I want to talk about it, well, you can re-enter the pizzeria to explore, and around it you can find several Faz tokens. Using these tokens, you can go to the arcade room and have Candy Cadet tell you a story. The story he tells consists of an infamous cave in the woods that everybody is afraid to enter. One day, a child stumbles upon it, and a beast convinces him to go inside the cave with him. The child never exits the cave. Several children entered the cave and never returned.
A sorcerer found the cave with the children and banished the beast from inside, locking all the children in the cave with a seal, keeping them safe inside from the beast that trapped them there. The children had the desire to leave, but the sorcerer couldn't let them without breaking the seal and letting the beast back inside. If it wasn't obvious, this story is obviously a metaphor for the missing children's incident. The cave is Freddy's, the beast is William, and the sorcerer is the puppet. This little extra thing you can do with Candy Cadet is honestly super fun, and I think it's such a unique thing to add to an extras menu. Finding these tokens and discovering this story is such a fun experience, and you can see me do it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But with that, as far as I'm aware, that is all FNAF Rewritten 87 has to offer. Overall, I think this game is nothing short of a masterpiece. It does a great job at making FNAF 2 feel like the overwhelming game Scott originally wanted it to be. The way the story is told is incredible, the graphics and animations are phenomenal, I love the character redesigns, and I really enjoy the mechanical changes where there were some. The ransomware genre is a subgenre of Five Nights at Freddy's games. While none of these games seem to actually understand what ransomware actually is, the general idea of these ransomware games is to make it appear as though your computer has been compromised by said game. A popular ransomware title you've probably heard of before and that I've actually covered on this channel is Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. And today we'll be diving into my favorite Five Nights at Freddy's ransomware game ever made, FNAF 1 Remake. Created by Marco Antonio, FNAF 1 Remake was designed as an April Fool's joke, so to some, the idea of actually playing it on release was off the table. However, for those who did choose to give it a try, I'm willing to bet they had a very interesting FNAF experience like never before. This game is fascinating, this game is creative, and this game is awesome. So join me today as we dive into the sad and depraved world of FNAF 1 Remake. FNAF 1 Remake centers around us as individuals rather than an actual character, which is something super cool that I've never seen in a FNAF game before. The game opens to a cutscene that just displays text. Explaining the story of the game may be a little confusing, so let me make something very clear. FNAF 1 Remake uses the player themselves as a character, writing your own story in place of a Mike Schmidt style character. In this game, we've re-downloaded Five Nights at Freddy's to try and recapture the nostalgia we originally had as kids when the game first released over 10 years ago. As someone who was around very early into FNAF's lifespan, in fact, I actually joined the community before FNAF 2 was even announced, this is a topic that I could personally find myself relating to. I can still remember my first experience with the game. I was on the couch with my buddy who had the demo version on his tablet. He booted it up, and I got too scared when Bonnie showed up at the door. I mistakenly took him for a dog at the time. I also avoided watching Markiplier's Let's Play of Five Nights at Freddy's because I somehow mistook Bonnie again in the thumbnail as a walrus. Don't ask me. I was a kid, and kids are retarded, okay? The game refers to itself as Buddy throughout the playthrough. Buddy tells us in the opening cutscene that he's going to give us the nostalgic feeling we've been yearning for, and it's going to be so perfect that it surpasses perfection itself. Shortly after, Buddy takes control of the program and quite literally changes the size of the window to show off how in control he really is. For the remainder of the game, we will not be able to put the game into full screen. Something I originally thought was going to be super annoying, but I actually grew to find charming throughout my playthrough. And with that, we can really start to dive into this game. I hope you're excited, because this game is really fucking cool. Throughout the nights, Buddy will talk to us before beginning each one. Buddy asks us if the office looks like the one we remember, just like the old days. He explains that the main idea of the game hasn't changed. It's a remake after all, and before he can say anything else, Night 1 begins. The only threat introduced on Night 1 is Bonnie, and he works in the exact same way that Bonnie does in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Once again, this is a remake after all. Bonnie will make his way to your door, and you'll have to close it to keep him out. However, Bonnie can actually attack both of your doors instead of just one. But when I tell you that these character models are a whole lot more uncomfortable looking than the originals, I mean it. Oh my fuck! Oh, fuck that, bro. Fuck that. Dude, what the fuck? Dude, that's so fucked up. The animatronics in this game are all very creepy looking. Not quite scary, but uncanny. Like something is clearly wrong. Take Bonnie. The way his face looks like it's melting, mixed with the odd poses he has throughout the cameras and while in the doorway, it just makes for a feeling of, God damn, I really want to keep him away from me. And I think that's super cool. Of course, keeping Bonnie out is as simple as ever. Literally just close the door. However, something interesting I want to point out about this game is the subtle movements that the window has while playing. As you move from side to side through the office, you can actually visibly see the window subtly move from side to side as well. It's such a small detail, but it's so fucking cool, and it's these little details that always get me to love these types of games. While playing through the nights, you'll also hear a very calming piano playing in the background. I feel this gentle music adds to the nostalgic feel. Not because the original Five Nights at Freddy's had music, it didn't, but the tone of the music itself feels nostalgic, even though I had never heard it before. And mixed with the very unsettling imagery throughout the game, I think the calming music really adds to the overall amazing atmosphere this game has. Night 2 introduces 2 new threats, Chica and Foxy. Let's start with Chica since it's literally just Bonnie. She does the exact same thing and is dealt with in the exact same way. The only difference is that Chica will make a sound cue when she's at your door and she's fat. Also, let's pause for a moment to look at Chica. Design-wise, Chica has changed more than any other character in the game. Her beak is gone, instead being replaced with a human-looking smile, which is just something I could have gone without seeing, thank you. And her eyes, of course, don't look very animatronic, now do they? Also, her bib just says snack, and is spelled wrong, so that's great. The other character to mention, of course, is Foxy, as previously mentioned. Foxy is pretty much the same as in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, with a few minor differences. To start, he is stalled by the cameras just like the original. However, you can actually stop him before he charges at your office. You're given the ability to shock him at any point to reset him in Pirate's Cove. However, when you do so, it does drain a lot of power, so it's best to just make sure you're watching him. He does have one other attack, however. Occasionally, you will hear Foxy do his classic singing. A touch I think is super nice. The classic da-da-dums from Foxy are some of the most memorable noises in the entirety of the FNAF franchise. Right up there next to Freddy's death song, the FNAF 2 hallway ambience that makes me want to wipe my balls on a cheese grater, and the animatronic jump scare noises themselves. So adding them back into this game 100% contributed greatly to the nostalgia factor that this game was going for, and I love it. When you hear Foxy start to hum, a hook will appear on the ceiling of your office. You will have to simply click the hook to make it go away, or Foxy will obviously ravage your insides. However, this may go entirely unnoticed since the entirety of the game, as I'm sure you could already tell, is in black and white. So it is likely that you may miss the hook if you don't end up hearing the sound cue, inevitably leading to a game over. On night 3, Buddy tells us that he didn't think we'd make it this far, clearly showing some distress on how quickly we're progressing through his perfect game. He introduces Freddy to us on this night, and the fun can really begin. Of course, I'm not allowed to be happy for a long while playing a FNAF game, so Freddy obviously had to have a find him on the camera mechanic to completely soil my day. However, I actually don't think it's that bad in this game. Ugh, Dxtr, you always do this. Whenever you don't like a game, you nitpick it to death and talk about how you hate every detail. But when it comes to a game you like, you forgive almost everything in the game, even if it had the same mechanics or problems that another game had that you didn't like. You're a hypocrite. I'm not a hypocrite. You're just brain dead. We have to pause for a moment to make something clear, since it's obvious from reading some of your guys' comments that you have no idea how opinions work despite the fact you guys have so many of them. So let's get together and do a little opinion breakdown. To start, I hate when FNAF games put a find them on the camera mechanic into their game. I think it's bad, and I think it disrupts the flow of the game. However, I don't mind this mechanic in FNAF 1 Remake. Does this make me a hypocrite? The answer is no. Let me dumb it down for a bit for the people in the back who don't think too good. Let's imagine someone doesn't like tomatoes. Would you call them a hypocrite because they claim to like ketchup? No, you wouldn't. And this is the same thing. Dexter, no it isn't, because ketchup isn't just tomatoes. Ketchup has multiple other things in it. Ding, ding, ding! Congratulations, dumbass! You just connected the dots. Would you like a trophy? Well, too bad. You've been on this planet for way too long to finally be able to figure this out right now. In the same way that ketchup isn't just tomatoes, FNAF 1 Remake isn't just a find them on the camera mechanic. It's the mixture of that mechanic and everything else that the game has to offer that makes me tolerate it. And the rest of the game doesn't have every character require a shit ton of attention. So, taking a few seconds to find someone on the cameras actually doesn't disrupt the flow of the game at all, and therefore makes it a balanced integration of the mechanic. If that somehow still doesn't make sense to you, and you still think I'm a hypocrite who glazes every game I enjoy, then you are retarded and there's no saving you. Anyways, continuing, Freddy also has two other ways to attack you. The first is just teleporting directly into your fucking office. When he does, all you have to do is just stare into his big, innocent, sensual eyes. I mean, all you have to do is stare at him for a while and he'll teleport back to the stage. Something interesting to note here is that when he's in your office like this is the only time you'll be able to see his eyes. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but it's just something kind of cool I noticed. The final mechanic that Freddy has is to play Simon Says with you. Yes, I'm serious. Hey, this game is still an April Fool's joke after all. It can be as unserious as it wants to be. Occasionally, Freddy will drop a panel down into your office and 4 of the 9 panels will light up in a specific order. You will then have 10 seconds to repeat the pattern you saw. If you fuck up the order or take too long because you sit on TikTok and have the attention span of a toddler, then you will immediately get jump scared. And there you have it, the most mechanically complex character throughout the entire game. And you can quote me on that. Editor, quote me on that. I fucking dare you. Watch what happens. Al, piece of fucking shit-ass editor! I'm sorry, Al. I don't know what came over me there. Anyways, on to night 4. On night 4, Buddy talks to us once again, except this time something is a bit different. Buddy is growing nervous that we're about to beat the game. He expresses how he wishes it could go on forever, how he wishes he could make it go on forever. Night 4 doesn't introduce anything new and is just a harder version of Night 3. Night 5 is much the same. Buddy asks us if we're still having fun. He asks us if we will play again after we win, just like old times. It's becoming clear that Buddy is growing desperate, ironically holding on to the nostalgia more than we are. He doesn't want us to leave, and I get the weird feeling that he's not going to let us. And I was right. At 4 a.m. on night 5, Buddy ends the night abruptly to talk to us, finally showing himself. An uncanny drawing of Freddy. He's grown aggravated with our supposed lack of appreciation of his masterpiece. He thinks that by us beating the game that we're just going to throw him and his creation aside to forget about. He grows more and more morphed as his anger gets the best of him, and he decides once and for all to make one final change to make this game truly perfect for us, getting rid of every mechanic we've seen so far and replacing it all with him, throwing us right into night 6.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
We open to the office and see what it has become, Buddy's new creation. The scenery is morphed like it's underwater and the monitors have been added to our office. Even the header of the window has changed to "keep going" in all caps. Buddy by far is the most complex character in this entire game. Al, don't you dare play that fucking quote! The most mechanically complex character throughout the entire game. You asshole. Well, whatever. I guess I lied back there, but who cares now? Buddy is the most complex character, so eat my nuts. Let's start with Buddy's main mechanic, sprinting as fast as possible directly into your door. You'll know when he's about to attack because you'll hear the loudest footsteps of all time pile driving directly towards you. You will have to quickly close the door to whichever side he's attacking and listen to him pound on the door as loud as fuck. Buddy also has the chance to attack your doors without booking it, so you will have to use the hall lights to see if he's there, and if he is, just hold the light on him until he disappears. He attacks very often and very quickly, so make sure you're on your A game. Buddy has two other ways to completely drill into your butt like he's digging for gold. You'll notice in your office that 2 monitors have appeared. That is not a coincidence, and it is actually a mechanic, if you can believe that. Throughout the night, Buddy has a chance to hack these monitors. When he does, all you have to do is click them to shut them off. If you don't, they will very quickly begin to drain your power faster than my female coworker drains my patience. And finally, Buddy has the chance to infect your cameras with a virus. When he does, you'll have to find the virus on the cameras and close them before they totally beam you. If you don't do that and instead allow them to beam you, the virus will cause your power to go out. And Buddy will crip walk into your office, rubbing his hands together and licking his lips before diving into your crack to have a quick little nibble. Keep in mind, Buddy is very fast and you will be getting attacked consistently throughout the night. There's not a whole lot of breathing room, so this night really pushes the limits to test your nerve control. If you can manage to survive until 6 a.m., we will get the final monologue from Buddy, where he expresses that he failed to accomplish his only goal: create a fun experience for us, the player. He says he'll cease to exist once the game is closed, saying he's only data and checked boxes, breaking the fourth wall and referencing what I can only assume to be Click Team Fusion code, which is primarily made up of checkboxes. He finalizes his monologue by stating he will forever roam around the darkness of our minds and asks us not to pity him. He apologizes one final time and hopes that we had a good time with his creation. And yes, Buddy, yes I did. And with that, that's all FNAF 1 Remake has to offer. There's not much more besides the custom night and a real-time 6-hour night, which I will not be touching in my entire life, thank you very much. But for a game this good and creative, I think most would be surprised to hear that it was developed in only 2 months. And I think that's fucking crazy. That's such a small amount of time for an indie dev. And I think everyone can agree when I say it turned out great. The game isn't too difficult. The designs are amazing. The atmosphere is uncomfortable and nostalgic, and it does a near perfect job of telling the story of desperation. Buddy's goal was to scare you, to appeal to how FNAF seemed when we were kids. And as we progressed through the nights, he grew desperate that we would beat it and we'd never come back. So he forces a 6th night on us in a desperate attempt to get us to stay. But after completing it, he gives up completely. He has nothing left to give us, and he knows that as soon as that window closes, we're never going to play again. And I think this is truly the most amazing part of this game. Fuck the atmosphere, fuck the designs, fuck the gameplay. This story is honestly, if not one of the best I've ever seen come out of any FNAF game. Or really any game for that matter, ever. And that cannot go overlooked. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just YouTube thumbnail slop? Let me know in the comments below. In my Tubbyland Archives video, I asked you guys what the most frustrating experience you've had in a FNAF game was, and my favorite comment was this one by Drews. They said Post Shift 2 in its entirety, and of course I agree. I think everyone knows how buttfuck difficult that game is, and I'm sure at some point I'll cave and end up covering it. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing in the comments below. I also want to take this time to apologize for the shortness of this video. This game really didn't have much to cover, but I really didn't want to gloss over how much I enjoyed the story, as it truly is one of the best I've ever seen. So I'm sorry if you were expecting another long 20+ minute video. I'll be having some really long fucking videos coming out in the near future, so stay tuned for that. The question of this video is there a certain FNAF game series you'd like to see me revisit? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!